Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all enjoyed your lunch break. My name is Li Qiuyuan. I'm with CGTN News. Now, this morning we've talked about how newsrooms are adapting to the ever-changing technological landscape. We've also launched the CGTN think tank. And this afternoon, we're going to turn our attention to AI and 5G and the vast impact it could have on media industry, in particular, live broadcasting. So to kick off the conversation, let me now welcome to the stage Mr. Yang Chaobin, 5G Product Line President at Huawei Technologies, and my colleague Zhou Yue, host of Zoom In with Zhou Yue. Welcome.
大家好，我是 CGTN 的主持人，我叫邹越。
I'm Zhou Yue.
很荣幸
I
参加
anchor of
今天的
CGTN.
论坛。
It is my great pleasure to today's summit. Our theme of today's summit is media versus technology. I'm from media, and our guest speaker is from a technology company, but not a mediocre or common technology company. And he is actually from a company which has been discussed a lot and who is also a pioneer in the technology industry. Today, we are very honored to have Mr. Yang Chaobin, the 5G product line president at Huawei Technologies. Welcome to today's summit. Let's start from the technology, 5G. Could you please talk about what is 5G? What are differences between 5G and 4G? 5G is the fifth generation of the mobile communications. It is compared to the first and second, third, and fourth generation. And 5G has been implemented commercially in many of other countries. In China, from November 1st, China Mobile, China Telecom, China Unicom have already launched the 5G technology and applications in many cities. So now I have two mobile phones. One is for 4G and the other one is for 5G. So in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, everywhere I go, I will test the speed of the connections to compare the 5G connection speed with the 4G. So what's your findings and the differences between the 4G and 5Gs? For 4G is something between 20 to 30 megabytes. But for 5G, it can reach 500 to 600, even up to 800, 900 megabytes. So 5G mobile phone never has this waiting time. No need to wait. For example, if you want to download HD film, it will take like dozens of minutes for 4G mobile phone. But for 5G, it will take you only several minutes to download a HD movie. Now in Korea, they have launched the commercial application of 5G already in October. So for the VR, actually now they can provide the VR-based online service staff. And this is online latency is less than 20 milliseconds. So VR, how is that enabled through the mobile phone? Now in Korea, you use a mobile phone and you wear a helmet, and then you can use this VR. But in September this year, Huawei launched a 5G VR and with a glass. So with this glass, now you can enable the VR. So with a mobile phone with glasses, you can enter in the VR ambience. But according to our understanding is that the VR is not widely used because of the limitation of the environment and the limitation of the wideband. So that will not be a problem for 5G, right? There are actually two issues or reasons behind the difficulties of applications of VR. First of all, the technology is not mature enough. Secondly, this network speed is not there. So now we have 5G, and then they can develop the applications based on the 5G speed and connections. So what are the scenarios for the applications of the 5G? For example, we said 4G changed our communications, but 5G might be able to shape our future society and even fundamental rules. Is that exaggeration? Actually, 5G, there are two positioning. First of all, it will enable the consumers to enjoy better mobile connection experiences. Secondly, to enable digitalization of the industries. For digitalization, now different industries and companies can set up a modern digital platform to collect the data and to have centralized processing of the data so that the smart management of the company can be further strengthened. In this way, the efficiency can be better and the resources can be allocated in a more efficient way. And the 5G connection can enable low latency and a wider broadband width. And in this way, the data connection will be possible in large volume. That's why we say 4G changed our life, but 5G will change the whole society. Because in the future, for the digitalization, 5G will enable the connections between the things. For example, Huawei worked together with China Mobile and the Mukwang of Henan to enable the digital mining. So at Shanghai, we can actually control the mining sites in Henan. So at Shanghai, you can have a very real-time view of the mining site. You can even control the mining machines and the mining vehicles on site. So only with 5G connection, this scenario can be enabled. Yes, only with sufficient broadband width, you can actually send all the images such remotely. And only with such a connection, your instructions from Shanghai can be sent to the site immediately. So the safety and security is also a very important issue. Yes, safety is even more important. So for 5G, when defining the standards, about more than 20 countries' regulators and the 50 companies from different countries work together to define the safety or security framework of the 5G. The security and safety 5G is an exponential improvement than 4G.
But from media point of view, we do care what the challenges brought by 5G. How would you interpret the changes brought by 5G to media? For my personal observation, for media, the most important thing is to timely convey and accurately the message to the outside world. With the upcoming 5G, it can better enable industries and media to realize it. In the past, if the journalists had to drive a bigger vehicle to the site to cover the events by satellites, and it was quite costly, and in some areas that is not accessible by the vehicles. And with 5G coverage, the interviews and coverage can be easily accessible. For CMG, for instance, they've designed the 5G package plus 5G mobile phones. It's really like this backpack plus mobile terminals. They can be live streaming remotely. We can open a backpack. What is inside? This is really a coding machine, and the images by camera to be transmitted into the coding machine, and all the images could be transferred into 4K images, and then to be connected to mobile phones. So we were able to live stream by mobile phones. It can serve as a camera. High definition cameras can be connected. So you could really realize it by having those. So currently that the online live stream can be realized by 4G SIM cards. And it can also go live streaming. But why do we need 5G instead? For 4G, it is limited in bandwidth. With 5G, we're able to realize 4K high-definition live stream. For instance, in the Spring Festival Gala and the Grand Parade on the 70th anniversary of PRC in October 1st. And does that mean in the future, for the satellite vehicles will become history? I believe so. And a lot of the vehicles or places that were not accessible by vehicles can be realized over 5G backpack. But my understanding is 5G is not merely in fast and wider bandwidth, but in all the things can be connected, low latency. All these features, how would that be applied to media environment? In the future, if in media, let's say if we would like to see in agricultural or forestry application, for instance, in the forests or in the farmlands or in the irrigation projects, all these connections are done by 5G. And even in the morning session on the live stream film, I'm quite interested in that. The 4K scenarios, I'm not sure it is based at home or in public spaces in the cinema. The 4K high definition cannot be perceived or distinguished at home, at TV sets, but can it be applied in the public spaces? I think for consumers, it is irreversible experience. If you've experienced 4K or 8K, you will never go back to 1K or 2K. So the future tendency, apart from 4K or 8K, it can also go VR. I've visited Korea myself to experience the VR content. And also our latest VR goggles. And so via VR, you'll be able to see the current 4K or 8K. Still a gap from the consumer's expectations. For virtual reality, VR experience, how would that change the way of image and visual? Or how revolutionary is that? I think with the VR device, you will be able to enjoy immersive experiences of 360-degree all-round experience. And at the same time, the application of VR can be applied to other industries as well. For instance, the e-commerce, online shopping. If you vote VR, you'll be able to see a certain item 360 for, let's say, in the next 5 to 10 years' time. For each media user will be immersively experienced in the VR era. I think for VR or AR in the future, it's definitely the tendency. So what about 5G development? Because in China, they believe China is in the lead in 5G development. So what is your comment on its development in China and its relevance with the world? Actually, in April 3rd, Korea is the first country to commercialize 5G. I think now there are about 50 carriers over 30 countries will be commercializing 5G. And in China, on June 6th, that the license of 5G are released by Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. And in China, the 5G coverage with certain post advantages because we use the 600 megabytes, which is in the leading place in the world. Why do we have this medium frequency as an advantage? Because years ago, in the industry, they also talk about the milliseconds frequency or medium frequency. And we believe the milliseconds, why we cannot go too far. We would believe the national coverage can be possible with 50 to 100 meters. And for the medium frequency is able to cover longer distance, and it is an appropriate frequency. And that's why this frequency is advantageous over other frequencies. Like in the United States, it is different in distribution of frequencies. In the US, they used 28 or 39. But for milliseconds wave, if we cannot cover too much and these substations is external and they cannot go into indoor and can only cover limited space, and that's why in the world when we announce the 50 carriers and over 46 are using medium frequency. And in Huawei's deployment, what is your strategy? For Huawei, as a system provider, how that we better serve our customers? At present, we've already signed 60 5G contracts around the world. In China, there were about 3, China Mobile, China Unicom, and China Telecom, and the rest of them are from overseas partners. They've been distributed in Asia Pacific, Southeast Asia, Korea, Latin America, Middle East, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, and also in Europe, the United Kingdom, Spain, Italy, Finland, the Switzerland. And they've all used Huawei 5G equipment. With those countries mentioned, one of the gap is in North America because the United States has listed Huawei in Entity List, and that will further constrain Huawei's deployment and resources in North America. So how do you see this perspective from the United States for Huawei in the long run? I believe the United States has listed Huawei as an entity list. For 5G, it is no impact for us at all. Even with us being on the entity list on prior to May 6th, we've already had shipment of 100,000, and after that there were also about 300,000 units. Though we were in the entity list by the US, for deployment and development of 5G, there's no impact. However, it creates damages for US companies and sabotage the rejuvenation of the industry. If US titan in Intel or Qualcomm for their service to Huawei, how do Huawei cope with that? I think for Huawei, over 10 years ago, we've had multiple suppliers on our device. Each of the components cannot be dependent on a single supplier from a single country. Even we were on the entity list with the suspension of supplies from US, still we are confident, even in this hardship, we're able to continuing our development. Let's go back to the big issue on the communications security issue. So Huawei might share the data with the Chinese government in order to threaten the national security of the United States. So for Huawei and your own data, what is your policy for the data collected, and why you were accused of that by the USA? With our 30 years of establishment, we serve over 500 telecommunications carriers, and in Fortune 500 that we've served a number of them and covering 30 billion people, our security protocol is one of the safest and the best in the world. Second, Huawei being censored the most in the world compared with other players. Do you find it's being impartially treated? No, even in Belgium, we've had a transparency center. All the carriers or third-party agencies, you would be able to have our source codes. So why US always accused Huawei of a security loophole? And we've also mulling over that issue, and we haven't figured out why. A lot of people kept asking us why US always accused us of security threats. There are a number of different narratives. Probably it's because of the trade war between China and US, or someone believes that the use of Huawei terminals cannot be easily accessible or monitored by the US. And I believe with 7 billion people around the world, they do have their own wisdom to make wise decisions. The latest news is Huawei's R&D center have shifted from the US to Canada. Is that a strategic choice? Yes, since we were listed on the entity list, according to that regulation, we were not able to contact with US entities and companies. So it was no significance of placing it in the US. We had to shift our investment to some country which is embracing Huawei. So Canada is a preferred choice. Thank you for sharing with 5G in the future. Thank you very much.
Zhou 老师的一个 fireside discussion， 那就有请下一位邹老师的嘉宾。好，来自
Our next speaker comes from Alibaba Vice President Mr. Hua Xiansheng. Good afternoon. I would like to introduce you about Mr. Hua. He is the Vice President for Alibaba, and he is also in charge of the Dharma Academy, the AI Center of Alibaba. So artificial intelligence is of high interest of people. Probably it will change the face of the world. So I would like to know, in the world now, what is the level of development of AI and how has it been implemented in practice? So, briefly speaking, we made great progress in AI with a lot of limitations yet. We have reached the peak of AI for the third time. The first peak comes in 1950s when AI as a concept was initiated, and then the second peak was in 1980s. And then today it is the third peak of AI, which is quite different from the previous ones. I would like to say four differences. First, we have the in-depth learning technology pushing behind AI for real development. That means we can make a great strides to solve many problems and challenges. And secondly, the computing power has been much bigger than before on individual computers or on cloud. And one of your mobile phones can compute a lot more faster than the old generation computers. So these are the two important factors. So these two are interdependent. And the third factor is the data. we do see a lot of data accumulated. Data now is the production material, while computing ability is like the power driving, and the algorithm is like the tool for production. So these three things come together to dig deeper into the data and push forward AI. And fourthly, we also see some relatively successful stories, such as in the e-commerce. You may find that the AI or the search engine understand your preference more than your friends now. And behind this search engine, there's a lot of AI activities going on. So all these progresses made actually are interacting with each other, such as the in-depth learning, deep learning, and computing power, and the big data, etc. So in which sector are these factors interacting more with each other? For example, now the algorithm can recommend you some products to buy, or recommend you some news titles of your interest, and also facial recognition technology. So which areas you will see the most unexpected transformation coming out? I would like to say that in different segments we will see major changes happening. We have seen some examples, and some examples are seen in the optimization of transportation and urban management. We can do things with the AI which cannot be done with the manual computing ability. For example, in Hangzhou City, we can use the AI to observe the traffic level, or the monitoring or they monitored camera pictures. It is a large amount which cannot be processed by human brains, but using AI we can use this data to predict the possible traffic accidents. Also, in industrialization application, there is an area for quality control, and it should be done as early as possible. Otherwise, the cost will just pile up. And now we can use AI to do that job instead of human examiners. Well, for Dharma Academy of Alibaba, you did a lot of prospective research. What are those you can share with us now? Basically, we are using application as a driving force to develop the AI technology, such as the automatic driving or the quantum computing, which is a rather long-term future. Well, back to our topic of the summit, the technology versus media. In the morning, we also heard about AI and media operation, how they can integrate it. For Reuters or Bloomberg, these media are using AI to write and editing articles or news, or even source the confirmation. So what is the prospect of AI application in media area? So how much can it replace the manual work, and to what extent it will change the value proposition or the landscape of the media industry? Well, I would like to touch upon the role of AI in the life cycle of media industry. I think for AI as a technology inside the media cycle, I think there is 4 aspects. One is collection, distribution, storage, delivery. And second step is usage, the end user usage, the producer usage, how to make it more efficient in production and inquiry and editing, and how it would be more convenient for the user to have access to those information. And the third aspect is the value of the data to be identified. The values can be commercial values, that is to say, a commercial monetization of the source, and it also has a social value, how to deliver the information to reach a certain goal. And advertisement has been the most effective way for monetization, but how to do that more efficiently? I think it is in natural conflict with the experience of users. And the fourth aspect is the IPR protection. I think in all these four steps or aspects, AI can be applied well. But we hasn't seen any transformational roles played by AI. As we see, because AI now is still in its initial period, to implement AI technology requires very in-depth integration between the technology side and the media practitioners. For example, that is to say, both sides need to understand the media and technology at the same time, so as to spark, to light up this new spark for AI application progress. Now we have the universal computing technology, but we do not have a universal AI technology. So that means, like between you and me, we should have closer cooperation, right? Yes. My question to you is that for AI into the media industry, it also sparks some disagreement. For example, the algorithm behind will recommend some product or news or content to the user in front of the screen, but that would kind of limit your vision or limit your way of thinking. And sometimes people call that a spreading of fake news or rumor. Is that, should we blame that to algorithm? I think that is because our algorithm is not good enough. Because according to my understanding, if the algorithm's goal is to maximize the traffic online or the number of users, then they would do things like you described. Isn't that the goal of the media company? Yes, indeed. We need to combine both long-term and short-term goals. Of taking a search engine, for example, you don't see any universal search engine to do this specialized or customized offerings. But in the e-commerce or in the news media area, there is specified or customized recommendation by algorithm or AI. I think that is related to the scenario of application. Secondly, in the universal application area, there's no customized recommendation by algorithm because it is not what the customer wants. But in specific industries, you do have enough data to do the customized recommendation offering. And I think that is related with the goal or the mission of the media players. We need to evolve ourselves from short-term to long-term or to integrate these two. Another longer-term topic is about AI itself. Right now, we are talking about the common AI technology. Will there be a super AI in the future due to its speed of evolution or computing power? Will such a super AI pose a challenge or disrupt the dominance of human beings? Many technology experts pose that question. Indeed, right now we see a fast development of technology. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, mentioned that we always overestimate what we can do in the coming 1 to 2 years, but we always underestimate what we can do in the coming 10 years, because 10 years is a long time for any change to happen. So, to what extent the AI will make the future robot to behave? Will the robot or AI to generate its own sense of purpose? According to my understanding, it will not. It's not possible. So, according to my understanding, the AI, the robot, can edit a story, and will they know why they are writing this story? I think now it's all programmed. It's not autonomous right yet. But according to my understanding, the machines now can study by themselves. So can they do that to generate their own sense of consciousness or existence? Well, for the frontline AI practitioners, they are quite conservative on that possibility. They would say it's a very long future or even impossible. And it is those outsiders who are very optimistic or pessimistic, on the contrary, to this technology. I would always make a joke that all those people talking about the doomsday of humankind by AI actually are not those people working with AIs. We do see there's a lot of progress in AI technology on many fronts, but in many more fronts, they are not as good as people. And secondly, about the sense of autonomous conscious, I think it's not possible for AI to have the sense of autonomous consciousness. So AI is basically a tool defined by me. And when we want the tool to do something human cannot do, I think we can program the AI to do that and bring a lot of threats, but it is still a human problem, not a machine's problem. Well, we know the AI will change the face or the landscape of different industries, including media industries. So who will be the leaders in these industries is very important. For China and the USA, they are competing. They seem to be competing in the AI area. And how do you evaluate their pros and cons of these two countries, respectively? Well, first on the features of AI development in China, instead of comparing these two countries. Well, for China, we focus more on the practical side in different industries. We also see many passionate pioneers and innovators in AI application because, as I mentioned, AI need to be integrated in different scenarios because labs can have a big gap from the actual things. So that is a big feature for Chinese AI development. So it is driven by the scenarios. So United States has a more advantage in algorithm, or China has more advantage in data. I think every different country has its own advantage in terms of algorithm. What we need to do is to push forward the productivity with the technology development, and I think that is quite special for China. So within the 5 to 10 years, to what extent AI will change the different industries? I think it varies and hard to predict that. For traditional industries and new digital industries alike, if you do not embrace AI, you will die. But I cannot talk about the specific timelines for that. Well, for some industries, it may come quick. Some industry may be slow, but for internet industry, it must be very quick.
Thank you, Mr. Huang. As people always say that if you want to succeed, you have to polish your craftsmanship. As we are now in the world of constant change and technologies, only by mastering the technologies can we achieve more and can we emerge from the crowd.
Discussion on AI, and earlier that 5G backpack is pretty neat. Maybe one day we no longer need satellite trucks, and we could even go more remote places that we weren't able to go earlier, so that's exciting. So as we speak, this Global Media Summit is now being live streamed at various digital platforms of CGTN. We've talked about the newest developments of AI and 5G, but when it comes to live streaming and live broadcasting, what does it mean? What can these technologies do to those? How can they take things to the next level? So for our next panel, we've invited guests from news and sports news industries to shed some light for that. So the session will be moderated by my colleague Mike Walter from CGTN America. He's the host of Full Frame. And now our panelists are Mr. Chang Yu, Director General of the Media and Communications Department, Beijing Winter Olympics Organization Committee. Welcome to the stage. Mr. Zhang Bin, Director of Programming Department, CCTV Sports. Welcome. Mr. John Pullman, Global Head of Video and Pictures, Reuters. Welcome. Mr. Vip Jaswal, Head of International Affairs, Fox News Channel. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Professor Dongfeng, Head of AI Research Group, University of Strathclyde. Thank you.
Hello again. Thank you all very much for that warm welcome. In preparation for today, I happened to dig up an article from the Tacoma Tribune from April of 1953. And you might not think that that would have any kind of bearing on the discussion we're going to have, but hopefully I can do a link here. The headline in this article said, "There'll be no escape in the future from our telephones." And the AP story outlined how the telephone was going to change in the future. And it was basically an executive with a telephone company in California who outlined the telephone of the future. And he said, it'll be something you'll be able to carry around. It'll be on you, sort of like a watch. You'll be able to communicate. You won't actually have to dial the phone. You might even see the people that you're communicating with the phone. And he went as far as to predict that your phone might be able to translate from one language to the next. He nailed it. Some of the items that are on here he didn't talk about, which of course we know about. We can videotape, we can take cameras. I mean, we don't even need the watch anymore. You got the time right with you. But I'm going to ask all of our guests here to kind of weigh in. And this gentleman's name was Mark Sullivan. And John, you had a great presentation earlier today where you kind of did the whole arc from pigeons to AI with Reuters. So give me your big picture, Mark Sullivan. Where are we going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years when it comes to 5G and AI? Well, I think the interesting thing about 5G is it'll certainly allow us as media to do new things. But the bigger impact will be on what it allows the whole population to do. So if you think, for example, 5G will enable self-driving cars, I think it's absolutely certain that they will become commonplace. So what that means is anyone who's in a car will now have time on their hands. They won't be driving, they'll have pressed a button and they'll sit back. So they become an audience. They become a whole new, at the moment, all you can do in a car is listen to the radio. In the future, you'll be able to do whatever you like. So I think the thing about 5G is, I'm not entirely sure we can imagine the opportunities it's going to create. They're going to be enormous. They're going to be all sorts of things that will feel commonplace in 10 years' time that we can't imagine today. Just like the phones we all carry, we couldn't survive without them, but we couldn't have imagined them a decade ago. So I think 5G will allow a whole new audience to develop and whole new ways of reaching them too.
A captive audience in a sense. Feng Dong, you've been doing a lot of research in these areas. Where do you see these technologies playing a role in media moving forward?
Yeah, I think one thing probably technology can change is basically the relationship between human and the machine. And with the increasing power of the machine, and currently we use the AI and technology like tools. But in the future, I think because the increasing power on the technology side from the machine, we will still use them as a tool, but as which is something like a more powerful tool. So it's more like the machine is going to become more like one of your colleagues to work with you, provide you with more depth information, to let you become more expert, to free you from a lot of low-level tasks, so you can be more creative to do a lot of things that you previously were not able to do. You had to do it manually by yourself. And also, I think from the medium kind of perspective, and what things can change is that we will have a more closer engagement with the audience, and the audience will be more empowered to be part of big events in live coverage. So you can do a lot of things. You can share a lot of thoughts, share what you saw on the scene. And so things could be more personalized. Media will come out.
And Chong-Yu, you're obviously thinking a lot about the Olympics. They're just around the corner. When we think about this technology, I was talking to John about it last night. In many respects, it's not right here now, but it's within reach. You can almost touch it. And when you think about 2022, that's
that's far enough in the distance, but it's close enough that we can really envision this playing a role in the Winter Olympics coverage. Can you talk to us about that? And in addition, Beijing, as we know, remarkably hosted the Summer Olympics in 2008, now hosting the Winter Olympics, the only city to do that. What made Beijing such an attractive target, and where do you see this technology playing a role in the Olympics?
Yeah, I think basically Beijing hosted both summer and winter is based on Beijing is a very warm-hearted city. I think the main reason is about our special climate. We are in the east seashore of Europe and Asian continent, and we have a very clear four-season climate. In the summertime, we are very warm, and in the winter time, we are quite cold. In the city, we will have snow and also ice. Especially in the mountain area, we have enough snow for skiing sports. So we become, I think, the first city who hosts both summer and winter. About the new technology and broadcasting, yes, broadcasting is a crucial part of Olympic game. I think the impact will become two directions. One is 5G plus. I think, yeah, as Mr. Dong said, that I think engaging and interactive is more circumstances for 2022. We hope we can provide every audience their own choice to through which direction to view, to watch the game. It will become a very popular usage during 2022. And another direction is AI plus cloud. We're now trying to set up a big data cloud broadcasting center in Beijing to provide a remote broadcasting methodology for all the RHBs around the world.
And Zhongbin, as a broadcaster, it obviously presents challenges and opportunities. Clearly, you have to be looking ahead. How do you see it playing out?
Actually, I don't want to foresee the very remote future because we're too small. We know too little for the longer future. But when it comes to my professional career, back 20 years ago when I interviewed the FIFA Women's World Cup, I drove 600 miles one day to cover the game because I had to be following closely from Chicago to Las Vegas. I have to also go to the sport training venue of the Women's Football League, and I have to also send the news and stories back to Beijing through satellite. By the time it was transmitted, it was midnight, and I have to commute back to the hotel. So one day I had to travel 600 miles. And up until now, no journalist, no reporter should or need to travel that far. All he or she needs to do is to send the contents whenever they are in the mobility, on the way. So in the future, the way of collection, transmission, or single point broadcasting will all be greatly improved in efficiency. I believe one of the two most important contributions from technology is diversity, freedom and diversity, because the ultimate, most perfect world means everybody shall be allowed to use the most preferred way to view and to engage in the games they like anytime, anywhere. This is the ultimate goal. And in the past, people think that just by physically sitting in the game, means the most ultimate experience. However, now with 5G, with AI, actually just by sitting in front of the big screen, by using the remote devices, by the mobile devices, we can get the data services on the mobile phone. We can get the explanation and anchoring from the mobile phone, and such as Amazon. Amazon can use money to broadcast the games. So when Amazon can also show the live broadcasting of the UK Football League, Premier League. So there have to be more diversified platforms, more diversified media companies and groups to assimilate a bigger value. In the future, there will be unprecedented speed of 5G transmission and cloud technology. I previously talked with Chang Yu. If Tokyo Olympic is remembered as a robotic-driven one, then I believe that Beijing Winter Olympic will be remembered as a technologies-driven, diversified technology-driven game. So everybody, anyone who comes to Beijing or Yanqing will definitely be impressed and embraced by the contents enrichment enabled by the 5G technology and AI technologies. I was also proposing to the Winter Olympic Committee to use the cloud technology to get all the personal contents. So by using the facial recognition, the athletes can be part of the broadcasting streaming. So by the time of 2022, any Olympian who have a mobile phone will be access to all the personal information he or she needs. We may realize it in the 2022 games, or at least we will minimum realize it by the year 2024 or 2025. At least we can expect something out of it from Beijing.
Interesting. Vip, let me ask you, I think Changbin brings up a really good point in that we really, our knowledge is so limited now, we really can't embrace what we're going to see coming. What excites you most about 5G and the potential it has and AI? Is it the speed? Is it the quality? Is it all of those things? And do we need to start looking at our industry in a different way? I mean, we kind of have patterns how we do things. I imagine workflows are going to change.
Yes, they will. I think the beauty of technology is that if you can dream it, you can achieve it. That's the beauty of technology today. But I do have a few concerns, and I think one of the things is, the theme of this discussion was revolution. But you can only have a revolution if you have equal participation. So my thing is, with 5G and AI, we're only going to see 100% of the impact if the 100% of the globe have that infrastructure. If 70% of the countries in the world have 5G and AI, that means theoretically, are we only achieving 70% of what it can do? So our strength is going to be determined by the weakest chain in the link. If there is a crisis happening in some village in Africa or something like that, and normally we're used to getting news at the speed of sound, we're only going to be able to get that news or that video as fast as they can produce it and deliver it. So those are my concerns. I think the second concern I have is 5G and AI a rich privilege, a rich country privilege? Because now internet and information has almost become like a human right.
So Feng Dong, to his point, we hear so much about income inequality. Are we going to see 5G inequality, AI inequality? I mean, is this a matter to be concerned about?
Yeah, I think there are two aspects. Obviously, when we come into the technology part, and the development are not going to be completely equal, in my view, between countries to countries and areas. And some of the countries will play a pioneering role going ahead. And so that's kind of a common phenomenon. But on the other side, we still need to bear in mind that by the end of the day, if we want the technology to serve the general public, and we really need everybody's involvement, everybody's benefit, the technology will need to benefit the public, not just a small amount of a group of people or a small number of countries in the world. So in that sense, I think a balanced kind of development should be taken into consideration at the start of the research and development.
But my question is, will there always be an uneven balance of a technological infrastructure across the world?
Yeah, I think we need to have a balance. A balance doesn't mean that we have to be 100% equal between countries to countries. So there will be some of the countries going first, and some of the countries going like follow up. But on the other side, I think we need to increase the communication, increase the collaboration. Things can be done through collaborations, and in order to achieve our target.
So, Zhongbin, I think you brought up some really interesting points. Do we need to think more as a consumer than as a now we kind of think as broadcasters, we push it out. But I mean, consumers, they're going to want different things now. I was reading an article where if you're at a match and there's a break in the action, you know, in the future, they're going to want the statistics to come out, or they're going to want to see highlights. And you have to start thinking about what their needs are and how to deliver to them. So how does it change your role as a sportscaster? Do you have to put yourself in the head of the consumer more?
This is a very good question. Indeed, the changes brought about by media to sports is diversified. In the past, people thought that media enabled the broadcasting of the sport matches to create commercial benefits and values. But actually, now the sports organizations have been changed by the media. For example, IOC, International Olympic Committee, and the FIFA have been also changed by the media activities. For example, the OBS, IBS have been a media organization to provide the signals and broadcasting of the Olympic Games and the FIFA Games. So they provide not only signals, but actually media products to the world. When we look at the football match, it's about 45 minutes, and then there's first half and second half, but actually the whole broadcasting lasts for like 4 hours, 1 hour before the games and 1 hour after the games. And at the same time, there are like 3 to 4 parallel streams for player A, player B, and team A and team B, and strategies and tactics. So actually, when we are broadcasting one match, we have different streams, and actually the media can process the information based on the needs of the consumers, and also can allow the consumers to make their own choices. For example, the video player provided by the IOC and the apps provided by the HBS can allow the consumers to understand the previous score of one vault player, jumper, and also the previous records of this player and previous records of the world. So this audience can understand all the statistics, including maybe the heartbeat of this player at this time point. All these can be enabled. But the thing is that whether they are allowed. So for the sports broadcasting, there are 2 things. One is the user experience. User experience is the ultimate goal for us. Only when the user experience is improved, the commercial value can be improved. The second experience is the technology user experiences. That's like us, who are the users of technologies. And 5G and AI are going to change our technologies, and we are the user of technologies. Our experiences will be different. For example, once we have facial recognition and we once had the cooperation with Ali in 2018. We hope that we can have the facial recognition of the players. Our editors can actually use the facial recognition to have the highlights. For the highlights of the tennis in the past, it was easy. When you heard the applaud, you know that there was a highlight. But we hope that in the future, it will be different. Maybe in the future, we can have the algorithm, and so that the AI can suggest more ideas for us to analyze the highlights. For example, for the Euro Cup, for the Germany versus Portugal. And if we can have a forecast of the result of this match based on the previous match's results, and then that is a result brought by the AI, the machine. Maybe this is more objective. So my expectation is that when it will help me to forecast the result.
So the interesting thing, listening to Jongbin, and I'd like to get Vip and John to jump in on this. It sounds to me like he's doing his regular job every day, but he's thinking out there in the future. How much of that weighs on the two of you as you go to work each day? I mean, is this something that's discussed a lot? Is it something that you think about? Does it keep you up at night, or is it just...
Funny you talk about staying up at night. I think sport often leads the way in these new technologies because sport is a universal language. You know, if you understand the sport, you don't care what country it's being played in, you will enjoy it. So I couldn't sleep last night, so I picked up my phone, and there was something revolutionary going on in England last night. Amazon Prime, for the first time, was broadcasting all the football matches that took place midweek. And they had actually arranged it so they all kicked off at different times. So if you had several devices, you could watch all the matches. You could have your phone here, your tablet here, your PC here. And this is a breakthrough. Now, they were only, you know, so it was each match streamed separately. I think with 5G, what we will see is you use the word giving choice to the customer. I suspect we will see the customer choosing which camera he or she wants to watch, and there'll be multiple cameras because it'll be so much easier to stream many streams. And I think that idea of the customer having the choice is something we need to come to terms with. I mean, we're used to broadcasting was a technology where an editor chose what the audience was going to see, and the audience either watched it or didn't watch it. They didn't have a choice. The internet has given them a choice about clicking on a story and watching it, but still, it's normally only one version of a story. I think 5G live streaming will give them multiple choices. We talked about personalization earlier. I think that will come, and I think sport is one area where we'll see this first, but I'm sure it'll spread through the rest of the media. It doesn't keep me up at night because I think this will be fantastic for our business. But I do have some concerns about whether we have the ability to cope with the options that the technology will provide. At the minute, at Reuters, we stream 6 live news signals at a time. So there could be a speech taking place in Beijing, a protest in Paris, an event in London, something else, and they're all streamed. And our customers, who are other news organizations, can then choose how to use them or which to use. I think the possibility of 5G is that all our cameras, we have hundreds of cameras out in the world at the same time, could all be connected live to base. And so we may have hundreds of live streams coming in during the course of a day. I don't know that we've got enough journalists to supervise, to manage that. I think that will be the challenge. And that might be where AI comes into play.
Vip, on this note, you know, I have a close friend of mine who says there's thousands of websites you can go to every day. You could spend but if you look at people, they go to 2 or 3, and they email their friends and that sort of thing, that there's too many choices, and there's an avalanche of opportunities. He could have 500 shots coming in live. It's kind of information overload. I mean, how do we balance all of that, and where is the concern with that, do you think?
I don't think that behavior will change. I still think most of us stick to maybe, 5, 6 pieces of sources of information. But I call it the cuddle-snuggle effect, that the beauty of 5G and AI, what it's going to do is being able to take the information you require, reposition it across the different platforms that you use, and keep you wrapped in that. So like, at Fox, if you're watching something on screen and it's breaking news, it'll show up on our Twitter feed, on the Instagram feed. So wherever you go, whatever form of information you require, long form, short form, whatever, we're there with our brand. So you're surrounded by the brand with the information that is custom tailored and made based on how that platform delivers it to you.
It's interesting that I was at a Fox affiliate many, many years ago, and at the time, and I'm sure many of you probably remember this, Fox only had programming a couple of nights a week. They had Married with Children, and they had The Simpsons, and yet Rupert Murdoch went in big on sports, and everyone thought he was overspending, and then you've seen all of the advances in sports. I mean, we've seen slow motion, we've seen instant replay, we've seen all of these sorts of things. So I find it interesting, you were talking about sports, how sports kind of always leads the way when it comes to the new technology in many respects. I can imagine Fox going in big on this as well. Where do you see Fox going moving forward when it comes to sports and the adoption of these technologies?
I think we're already there when it comes to sports, but I think the magic of technology is what's going to be brought in to the sports arena. Because sports is basically live action as it happens, but on a predictive basis. So you know which match is being played, which time of year, and things like that. Everything else that is live is usually breaking news, and sometimes, unfortunately, not of a good nature. But sports is a family-based event, and there's a theme around it and things like that. So I think the best of is always going to be targeted towards sports as a starting segment to see how it plays out, because you have viewers across all generations. It's usually a family event. So it's a great way to tap into and get analytics from there, for which is used to feed AI.
So Feng Dong, I guess in many respects, we won't just necessarily be consumers, we'll be curators too, is what I'm hearing. Like he was saying, you may have a particular camera angle that you like, so talk to me how things are going to change, and how much is the consumer going to drive how things are done moving forward?
Yeah, I think the big thing I can see that the consumer wants to be a part of a big event. So when I say part of the big event, it could be like I can share my thoughts, what I saw to my friends. Secondly, a consumer wants to be more involved in the event. Like I want to make for instance, I want to make a prediction, right? And so what AI can do is that it can do based on a lot of historical data, which currently, which from a human perspective, you might not be able to get it from because of your limited memory, limited knowledge. Something you cannot get, in which the technology can get, and to provide a more reasonable kind of prediction. And the AI can also, I think one of the key areas that AI research is doing now is try to let AI communicate with human. So AI not only make a decision, but also tells you how to explain their decision, how they reach that decision, to help you to say if there is a prediction, why this prediction is like this, and how much I can trust that prediction. And so by doing that, and you can also personally actually predict the results and to be able to share with your with your family and friends. And we can also, another area I think we maybe, as an individual consumer, they can move into, is that they can also imagine if that event is related to myself. So if I'm part of the team players within that game, how that would be. So that could be actually linked to a lot of, because sports and health, they are always two kind of related events. So, so I can imagine that from my own kind of perspective, how can these kind of events will influence my lifestyle, my health.
So, Jongbin, I've got to ask, as a sports spectator, I like that experience of going to an event and being there and kind of the experience. And yet, when you read the potential and where the camera angles can be and all, it's almost as if you've got the best seat in the house viewing it. How does this experience change for someone who's a sports fan, do you think?
For us, we also hope that we could do PGM by broadcaster selected highlights with our rationale and reasoning. But for spectators, they have their own needs. In 2002, about 17 years ago, the World Cup could use player A and player B camera to see your favorite players. For instance, the 15-minute, I could only focus on David Beckham. So you would be so excited to see it. But some of the fans would vomit with this 15-minute length because it was only one focus. And so that experience may not last that long. So even for the choices of the spectators were there, but we could also another window that how the spectators watched the events can become more diversified. So it may not influence the spectators, but also the broadcasters, even with the improvement of technologies. What about the change of lifestyle or employment? Even with the Amazon Premier League, it was the Amazon Premier membership was not applicable in China. But in order for Amazon to broadcast Premier League with newly signed 73 commentators and guests for our industry, it is a great opportunity for creating employment. Do you know for China Central Television, we only allowed 5 to 6 people. So 73 people in the future, that will bring a lot of job opportunities. And this creation of jobs, and for it cannot only depend on one team, but even for a match for the time being, it requires a lot of commentators, and it's happening in United States on the basketball league. And so for these diversified choices, it will definitely bring a lot of talent pool and more job opportunities. And also another important thing is during the evolution of media, the most profound impact for sports, if the news would every other day to be publicized, but now it's in real time. For NBA or even for CBA, the earliest creation was by TV set, NBC, CCTV, the very earliest. But for Premier League, was by BT, British Telecom. It contributes more cash flow, even for China Mobile. Even now, YouTube or Amazon or Twitter, Facebook, they were involved in broadcasting. The all investment was for the audience from the TV to be shifted into other screens or other platforms. This shift requires investment and time. And even for the change in China on this single platform for TV sports from 1 RMB to 1,000 membership that amounted to 10 million spectators in China. So, you know, the leading copyright royalty was close to 5 billion RMB. So how that we're able to sustain to make this 5 billion into benefits, nobody is able to calculate. Probably in 2 years' time they might die, but I'm not accepting that assumption. So for consumers, broadcasters, investors, and platforms, technology in its fastest growth to go through the profound change, and especially in sports, I believe Fox is telling us how stream can influence us. And even with on-site production, the biggest profound change is the way of transmitting and live streaming. And I think the UK, the States, it become one of the most important way. And let's see how it can be implemented in China and when that can be make it profitable.
Back early, I think it was 2004 or so, I was working at the CBS affiliate in Washington, D.C., and it became the first television station in Washington to convert to HD. We had our studios in HD. But they didn't want to spend the money on the HD cameras to go out. And so you'd have the people on the set delivering the news in HD, but the video that was shot was in standard definition. And that's one of the things that you see is a lot of executives, they have to look at the budgets and all of that sort of thing. They don't want to spend all that money, and technology is constantly changing. So I'd like to throw the question in your direction, although in this respect, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it, maybe I'll start with you, John, first. When I think about 5G, though, I think about satellites and how much money that is, and now in many respects, this is technology that's going to save money. I mean, it should actually bring smiles to the faces, but you do have to invest, don't you?
You do. I mean, satellites they're not quite dead, but they're definitely dying. So at Reuters, we've hardly used satellites for the last 3 or 4 years. The backpack we saw earlier from Huawei, we have similar devices. You can get them that you attach them to your belt, you put a number of SIM cards in, you plug in your camera, and you can go live. They're going to get smaller, they'll get better when we have 5G. So satellites are definitely gone. I think one of the interesting aspects will be, will the public go out and buy a 5G phone themselves? We have to convince them that that's worthwhile. I mean, most people in this room have probably got 4G phone, and we're all very, very happy with them, I think. I mean, you can do everything we've talked about, you can do. What 5G will allow you to do is do it faster. I think the telecoms industry will have to find ways to persuade us to throw these phones away and buy new phones. But in terms of investing in technology, as an industry, we have to do that. I mean, the future will be a camera which has a slot in it where you put your SIM card, and you probably don't need the backpack. Your camera will then automatically connect to the internet. So I think we will get there. I mean, there will be an element of the rich countries and the rich organizations will get there first. But I think we've seen what's happened in Africa, for example, is they've skipped a generation in technology. So everybody's gone mobile before they had a landline. They didn't bother doing landlines. So maybe we'll see the race won't necessarily be even. If 5G sells itself as a technology which will change your life, then I think we will see general adoption of it.
Vip, let me ask you about that, because it seems like the hype about this is so intense right now. I think people are just ready to just fling the phones, because you just think, and everyone's like, oh, it's going to be mind-blowing how fast it is. Do you think it is going to be a hard sell? Because in many respects, John's right. I mean, most of us are pretty content with the phones we have now.
I think I agree with John that 5G might be a hard sell. Like with the new televisions that came out, the 4K or whatever, they didn't really do that well. But what will sell would be the AI component. People love predictive behavior. People love when their behavior is being predicted and delivered. So I guess if the telecommunication companies were smart, which they are, as long as you bridge the AI component with the 5G, then you might get a more proactive behavior of changing your device. Because I would love to know what I'm going to do next.
It's better if the computer knows it and tells you in advance,
Exactly.
right? You know, Feng Gong, there's a quote in this great book. I haven't had a chance to read all of it, but I'm on page 63 right now talking about 5G. And once it's out there for broadcasters, and there's a quote from Matt Drudge, "This means the arrival of the golden age of short video news." And he says, television has saved the film industry. The internet will also save journalism. Do you see it that way as well? I mean, is it going to have that much of a profound effect on our industry?
Yeah, I think that because of the more active involvement from average consumers, and so they can, the new technology also gives them the opportunity to be able to make their voice heard. So they will play a more important part in terms of the media and journalism. So I can see there will be some kind of a land shift change in the future with the technology, new technologies available. And how much, honestly, I don't know. Things are very difficult to predict, but there will be some big changes in the near future, I believe.
Yes,
go ahead.
I can provide you an example. For example, the 2008 opening ceremony in Bird's Nest. At that age, you can only sit there to watch somebody edit the broadcasting for you. But we hope in the future, under the 5G and AI and the cloud, big data technology facility, every audience you can edit your own opening ceremony for the Winter Game, for your own version. I think this kind of interact will promote the usage and to involve more people with Olympic Games.
It's interesting, one of our earlier speakers was talking about convergence, which has been media convergence. We've heard about it for a million years. John, I'll throw this question at you, because you've been around the business for a while. I've worked at different operations. I worked for USA Today, where they were doing convergence of the newspaper with a television entity and online, and it was really clunky and it didn't work well. As we're talking about convergence moving forward with mobile and broadcasting and all of this, are there landmines out there, or do you see it being more seamless this time around with convergence?
I think we've got better at this. I think we're all, I mean, everyone in this room uses their phone to take videos, take pictures, edit them on their phone. I think generally the level of knowledge of an experience is higher than maybe it was when these technologies were new. I think this is a development that we will grasp quickly, but I do think there are things we can't yet imagine that it will allow us to do.
And how soon before we see that?
I think we will all still be working when it happens.
Well, that's comforting. And everyone's talking about how all this new technology, it's going to cost us jobs, but it's comforting to hear, Jong Bin, that we're actually going to have more jobs for all of us, so we can do one of these. I can't thank you enough. We've got 40 seconds left, and I know if I ask a question, we're going to go longer than that. So we'll end it here. I want to ask all of you to just give them a big round of applause. You guys were fantastic. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that interesting discussion. Appreciate your insights and perspectives. Many thanks. Now, this year's CGTN Global Summit has for the first time featured a TV documentary screening day. And this year's theme was environmental protection and technology. 6 outstanding media organizations have submitted their work for screening, sharing their insights on our shared planet. Now, documentary filmmakers brings us the opportunity to examine our life closely in this fast-paced world when we are bombarded by fragmented information 24/7. This is a good opportunity to take a pause and think about the impact of human behavior. So without further ado, here are the nominees for the Producer's Choice Award. 被提名的有 Earth from Space, BBC Studios; Princess of the Beavers, CGTN; Becoming Human, CNA; The Moon and Beyond, Discovery. Home Within Home, a micro safari, KBS. Jackie Chan's Green Heroes, National Geographic. And let's now take a look at their work. 请放 VCR.
Using cameras on the ground, in the air, and from a satellite, we can tell the story of life on Earth from a brand new perspective.
"我们难道真的就要眼睁睁地看着这些没能活在保护区里的河狸就这样在外面一点点死掉吗？"
Will our future with AI be a nightmare?
We could totally lose control.
Or a dream come true?
Honey, would you like some coffee?
Thanks, honey.
I'm here to spice up your life.
And discover how AI is becoming human.
Join Jackie Chan, international superstar, and Arthur Huang, National Geographic emerging explorer and structural engineer. Together, they'll embark on a new adventure for eco-friendly innovations and cutting-edge green technology.
They push the frontiers and they expand.
And now, please welcome Mr. Li Bin, Deputy Director of CGTN English, onto the stage to present the award. 有请李主任。
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How time flies. I'm very much privileged to welcome you all here joining us, especially 6 filmmakers from international broadcasting organizations. Yesterday, they brought here a number of 6 films of high quality for screening with the theme of technology and environment. And before I announce the winner of the year's award, I would like to say a few words of my understanding of long videos and films and even documentaries. I'm very much impressed by Vice President Sun Ying-shen's speech this morning. He said that facing the competition and challenge of short videos, the long videos and films and even documentaries are not dying. Instead, they enjoy a reliable audience and also they enjoy a great momentum for development. And that's why the reason we still this year launched the CGTN Producer's Choice Award. Now the moment comes. Let's see who will be the award this year. The winner of this award goes to Becoming Human, Channel News Asia.
Congratulations. Congratulations to Channel News Asia, and welcome Ms. Pearl Maria Ford, Senior Producer of the winning production, to receive the award.
We could totally lose control.
Or a dream come true?
Honey, would you like some coffee?
Thanks, honey.
I'm here to spice up your life.
And discover how AI is becoming.
Congratulations, Ms. Forrest. Would you like to say a few words on winning? Can we have the mic, please? 来，把麦拿上来，谢谢。A few words from the winner. Thank you.
大家好，我是新加坡亚洲新闻。
I'm from the Singaporean CNA. I'm the producer Pro. And thanks to CGTN for holding this summit and give me this opportunity to interact with the different media players from the world. Well, our producers team will continue our effort to present you high-quality work in the future.
A Singapore-based news network, but we broadcast to Asia. Thank you to CGTN for this opportunity to be here and for organizing this media summit for all of us to exchange ideas. And also a special shout out to my fellow producers from KBS, CGTN, BBC, as well as National Geographic and Discovery Channel. All your works are very, very impressive and equally deserving of this award. I'm deeply honored, and we will continue to work hard in Singapore to bring you quality documentaries. Thank you.
All right, congratulations again. Let's give our photographer a chance to capture this moment, a group picture. Can we have you guys in the center of the stage, please? Thank you. All right, thank you. Once again, congratulations to Channel News Asia on winning the first Producer's Choice Award. Thank you. All right, we're now going to take a short break. Do join us back at 4 p.m. When we come back, we're going to kind of talk to some of the most successful social media influencers. So hope to see you then.
Hello everybody, welcome back to CGTN Global Media Summit and CCTV Plus VMF. I'm Li Jingjing. Well, this year's topic is media and technology. Technology has changed our life in so many ways, and it also dramatically changed us as reporters, how we do the news. Well, as all the speakers and guests are taking a break now, I'm going to show you the creative reports that CGTN has done with creative technologies. So here, right next to me, we have an exhibition that going to show you all these interactive reports that we have done in the past few years. For example, over here, we have a screen showing this interactive page. This is an interactive page about this Daxing International Airport. You probably already know that during October this year, China has launched a brand new airport, which is the Daxing International Airport. And China will soon to be the largest aviation market in the world by mid-2020s. So for those of you who have never been to this Daxing International Airport, don't worry, you can know every detail about this airport through this page we designed. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to move the mouse here. Actually, you can see, you can move this page and go into every corner of this one. For example, I click this terminal. It's showing much more information here. And if you want to go inside this terminal, no problem. There's a 360-degree button. And if you click inlet, you're inside this Daxing International Airport with 360-degree images. And everything you need to know is in this page. This is the creative page we've designed for this airport. And over here, we have another mascot. Actually, CGTN has a mascot with is a panda. And this page, he's like a vocal guide on our page. If you have any question, you can ask Panda. For example, I'm grabbing this phone, and I'm going to ask this Panda, can you show me something about China? So you can see actually my voice came out. And Panda is telling me, please check these out. And it's showing me some stories about China. And this is on my phone. For example, I'm clicking this one. China to build a space-based solar power station by 2035. This is very easy. You can search any kind of stories on our page by asking this Panda any questions. This is the panda. If you really like this mascot, this CGTN panda, actually you can take a photo with it. Hello. So can you tell me how does this work?
Yeah, please just stand in here, and the
Yep.
camera is here.
Oh, here's a camera. It's filming me. So this is a VR technology that I can actually take a photo with a panda. Oh, can you see the screen? It's taking a photo. There's a little panda, this VR panda, which is CGTN's mascot. Although in reality, there's nothing besides me, but on the screen, there's a little panda, and you can take a photo with it. It's taking a photo now. And it's now processing this photo. If you like to take one, you can go to CGTN's page by ask any questions to this panda or take a photo by clicking the AR button. And over here, we have more interactive pages. Over here, this is a page called Who Runs China that we designed for the 2 sessions this year. 2 sessions is one of the most important political agenda in China. So every March, all the deputies and delegates came to Beijing to promote and discuss any problem exists in their communities. And this is because a lot of people have no idea who are those deputies. So through this page, we are giving a clear portrait of those delegates. For example, I'm scrolling the mouse. It gives you more information about what is 2 session and who are the deputies. And there were so many dots. You probably already seen there's some dots. Each of the dots represents a deputy of the NPC. For example, in 2019, there were 2,975 deputies of the 13th NPC. And who are the deputies? If you want to know more about those deputies, actually, you can click those dots. For example, I'm pointing the mouse on one of the dots. It shows the gender, the delegation, the birth year, and ethnicity of this deputy. So all these almost 3,000 dots represents all these deputies. And if you're scrolling down, you can see, are they male, are they female? And more information, like what year were they born? So in the year 2019, most of the deputies were born in the 1960s. And also there were delegates from other years, but you can get a much clearer information about who they are. So if you write all this information in one article, audiences probably will lose interest because just normally audience won't stay in one article for way too long. But by putting all this information in one interactive page, audiences can get a much clearer portrait of those informations. So this is the interactive page we designed. But over here, also we have a 360-degree immersive report. I'm wondering what's in there. Hello, Lester. This is my colleague, Lester. So there's a headset.
Yes, you want to try first?
Yeah, so I'm going to put this on and see what kind of film it's showing.
So let me help you to play it.
Okay.
Can you turn to like a little bit?
I'm turning.
Yeah, and point. Just hold there.
Okay.
For a second. Okay, yes, playing now.
And I'm seeing, this is a Shaolin Temple. I recognize it only because I've been to there when I was a kid.
You're going to go turn right. You can
turn right?
Yeah,
this is the one I'm seeing, but I guess you can see everything from the TV in front of me. So what you are seeing on the TV is what I'm seeing in this headset. So the monks are practicing Kung Fu. Can I turn around?
Yeah, sure.
So the audience also see my view, right?
Yeah.
On the TV?
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. I've never been here for like 15 years, I guess.
15 years. Okay. That's quite a long time.
Okay, so I'm in the woods now. Oh, those monks are running towards the mountain. So, okay, Lester, this is a movie introducing about how this monks...
daily life in
the daily life.
Shaolin, yeah. Do you want to remove it?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's actually the the breakfast.
They're having the breakfast.
Yes.
And actually, the audience probably won't hear it from the TV, but actually, I mean, I can hear the voice over here. So, the voiceover explaining what they're doing, their daily life. They're providing much more information. This is so cool because normally I wouldn't stand on any woods like this. So this is the 360-degree stories that you've been doing. How long have you been filming for this video?
Actually, the whole shooting process we spent around like 14 days, and
14 days
seven days was like our team to get in the Shaolin Temple and try to get understand what's the real daily life of the Shaolin people in Shaolin like. Then we try to organize storyline, and other 7 days is to get in the 360 video footage. Yeah, it's really difficult to carry on this 360 like special the equipment around the mountain. So it's quite funny, very interesting
It's a lot of
because,
equipment, very big equipment.
Right.
But I'm also wondering, why do you want to tell a story about Shaolin Temple with virtual reality?
Oh, actually, we did a survey for our audience overseas. So we have several choices, and actually they really love They really love Shaolin Temple and Kung Fu. They feel like this is the best way to understand the Chinese culture. So we picked up this topic. Yeah.
Oh, that's why. And do you think virtual reality can be used in many other topics, many other aspects?
Yeah, sure, because the virtual reality can bring you really the first-person feeling, the immersive, so we call it the immersive experience. So like if there's a war happen, and if you want your audience really feeling what will be at the first front line, that's the topic we want to use in VR. But now we maybe a little bit linked on the equipment, like what they can watch.
Yeah.
But by the 5G technology coming, and it's where we getting easier. Yeah, we think. Yeah.
So this is a video that you have
Yeah.
to watch through the headset, but I
Right.
know you also designed an interactive page for this
please
Kung Fu.
move.
So here on the screen, you can see they also designed an interactive page that you even though you do have a headset, you still can watch all the videos, everything on your phone. So can camera show you?
so-
Yeah. So this is connected with this phone, right? Everything you see here is on this phone, so he can operate this page with this phone.
So
Okay.
it's based on a web page. Actually,
Based on
so
web.
you can find it on our CGTN.
So
use web.
yeah, this
And,
is the video, right? That
yeah.
I just watched.
Yeah, we try to present like different types of way to give our audience the same story. So over there you just experience the VR video, and here is the interactive page. So at the home page, we also have this video you can watch online, and if you move down to the
摄
page.
像可以拍到这个屏幕，我们的摄像可以拍到这个屏幕，可以看一下。其实它
Yeah.
So he's scrolling on this page, but you can see much more information on the screen. As
Yeah.
he's scrolling this page, you can see there's a Kung Fu master is doing all these motions.
Yeah, actually he is the head of the Kung Fu team in Shaolin Temple, so he is really the best of the Kung Fu in Shaolin Temple, and we did a motion capture of him in Shaolin. We did the scanning,
okay.
and we had back all the materials, and we come out with these ideas, try to present it on the interactive page. So actually, if our audience is really interested with Shaolin Kung Fu, they can just move their fingers, and they can learn this.
Oh, so yeah. As you can see there, as you're scrolling the screen, there's a moving Kung Fu master. This is motion capture from a real Kung Fu master in Shaolin Temple. So you can see much more than a video, a story on this page. You can actually learn some Kung Fu movements on this page. This is quite impressive.
Yes.
There are so many ways to tell a story, and as I show you, we did AR, we did virtual reality, and interactive pages. These are the attempts done by CGTN. We try to tell stories in so many more creative ways. But these stories are done with the help of so many tech companies. And over here, in today's CGTN's Global Media Summit, we are supported by so many tech giants as well. For example, over here, we have we have Tencent, actually. This is the skill of the simultaneous interpretation. Actually, this technology is already being used in today's summit. During all the forums, no matter what language the speakers are speaking, everybody can understand, can see the translation on the screens. Inside the conference room, they also have this screen translating simultaneously of the language of the speaker, and I can show you the technology actually. So, 我应该说中文还是英文呢？现在 ？So, really, it can translate my language, either it's English or Chinese. But I think now I'm gonna speak some English. It's actually already recording what I'm saying right now on the screen. So I'm gonna try it. Okay. Hello everybody. Now I'm at this Global Media Summit, and I'm testing this Tencent simultaneous translation technology, and it's going to translate my language from English to Chinese. See? Have you seen up there? What I just said through this microphone is already being translated. So everybody, you can understand my language. And now I can try to speak some Chinese, I guess. Okay? So now I'm going to speak some Chinese. Hello， 大家好，现在我是在 CGTN 的全球媒体峰会。那我正在试验这个腾讯的实时翻译技术，到底它翻译的怎么样呢 ？Again, it's being translated into English. So this is a quite convenient technology. Although sometimes there might be some minor mistakes, but you can fix those manually. But it already helped us a lot during an actual conference. For example, a conference like this, we have speakers from around the world. They speak different languages, but this thing can simultaneously translate for us. And if you're a reporter doing interviews in different countries, different languages, they also translate what the interviewees are saying into a language you understand. So that's very convenient for us. And I think it also can be used, for example, we as a reporter, sometimes we have a footage of 30 minutes long. And normally if you want to write any article to understand anything from the 30 minutes long clips, we have to listen to every minute of this footage. But nowadays, with this technology, we can get a script, and then we can focus on the part that we need. So we can jump right to the part that we need. So that's, I think, a lot of help for us, to media, to journalists. I definitely need this kind of technology, and it's already being used in this conference at our CGTN Global Media Summit. And over here, we have another technology provided by Microsoft. Over here, we actually have, we can see there are two giant screens. The screens, they're showcasing some technologies. 你好，可以帮我们介绍一下这是在做什么吗? So I think he's going to tell us more about this technology.
这个是微软的这个语音识别的技术。完了，这个视频里头的话，我们能够快速的去检测到里面这个视频出现了多少人员，它出现了多少主题，然后它谈的各个场景以及这个谈话的内容，可以帮助我们的媒体快速的去找到我们想要的内容。
Okay, so this technology will analyze a lot of information in the video. For example, how many people appeared in this video, what are the topics, what are the emotions. So it help us to fastly focus on how many people, and go to the people that we are looking for, and go to the topics that we are looking for. I noticed there were another 有一个体育的一个是能帮我们展示一下吗？ So here's a basketball game, and this also very useful if you are a sports journalist, actually. 能给我们介绍一下？
这是一段 CBA 的视频，总共这个视频有10分钟。我们在这个视频当中可以快速的去识别里面所出现的这个各种动作，比如说我们的投篮、灌篮和这个扣篮的这个动作。那么 你可以看得到这个动作，我们的识别率大概能达到96%以上。对，大概是这么一个情况。这个技术呢是微软的这个物理识别，能够识别2000多种的物品。
哦。
对。
So these techniques analyze all the key moments during a basketball game. For example, here it already analyzed the shots, the dunks during this game. So if you're a sports reporter, you know how many shots have been done during this game, how many dunks have been done during this game, and you can find that clip, use that clip. It's much faster because in the old times, everything like this has to be done manually by people, and it wasted a lot of time. And over here, this is a live subtitle, I guess. Because right now it's showing a basketball game, there's no subtitles. But when there's like the anchors, interviewees are speaking another language, it gives you live subtitles, as you're already seeing in many other platforms as well. So this is the help with the technology from Tencent, from Microsoft actually. Tencent provided with the simultaneous translation. And we also have so many other tech giants that help us a lot today. Today we also have, there's another exhibition from iFly Tech. This is also a recording and translation service. 你好，能帮我们简单介绍一下吗？我们现在这个技术，
这个是我们的一个讯飞听见的录音宝 MES，然后它是一个7+1的环形麦克风阵列，然后可以实现360度的无死角的收音，然后它还有内置的这个比较核心的引擎，然后可以去进行降噪的处理，保证你的录音效果是非常好的。然后它录音的内容可以通过我们的手机 APP 做这种实时的转写，然后我说话的内容通过这里面就可以转成文字，然后如果你点了我们的翻译的话，它说的内容实际上都可以转写成英文，然后方便就是对于不太懂英文或者不太懂中文人去做一个了解或查看，然后它还可以作为录音。
明白了，好的，谢谢。因为这个I think this is very important, very useful for reporters, especially those who work for print journalists. They need to write a lot of stuff and need to record the audios from their interviewees, and they need the transcript of their interviewees. So with this little device, it helps a lot. So make our work much more efficient. And I think iFly Tech is already being used in many conferences, by many reporters as well. I know my colleagues are using it in their daily life. Thank you so much. Thank you. And also we have another tech giant, the AWS over here. So all this technology changed our life, changed the way we work in so many ways. But I can't even imagine if the technology become much more advanced, how our life gonna be and how it gonna reshape media. So these are all the giants, all the tech giants that are working with CGTN right now. I'm wondering if you're interested in knowing more about the interactive pages and the virtual reality reports done by CGTN, you can go to CGTN's app and website and YouTube, Facebook to check our reports. And I think I heard the staffs are ringing the bells. So gradually, all the guests are going back to the conference room to continue their panel discussions. But I think we still have some time to go. Actually, I don't know how much you know about this AWS technology. We have some visitors here. Hi, 你好，可以帮我们简单介绍一下我们这边在那个做的是一下什么？
我们现在说一下，现在可以就是这个就是咱们今天在中午的时候发布了一个 CGTN Now 的一个 APP，然后这个是使用了我们的 AWS 的前端服务，还有亚马逊的一个终端设备叫 Fire TV， 然后整个的从后端到前端都使用了 AWS 以及Amazon Fire TV 的设备，完成了一整套从上传到传播，然后到触达终端的一个。
Okay, thank you. So we launched this many.
CGT Now.
Yeah, CGT Now. This, if you have been watching our live streams, you probably already noticed what we launched today. And this could be possible with the help of AWS and also with the help of all the other tech giants today. 感谢，谢谢，谢谢，谢谢。So, there is still some time. I can keep show you around in this room because the guests and the speakers are still not back to the panel discussion. But as we talked today, earlier in this morning, I have my interviewees from the RT 360-degree department and also the senior reporter from BuzzFeed. We have a lot of discussions about how technology gonna transform, reshape media actually. And I think everyone believes in the future, technologies as like virtual reality going to dramatically change our life, but we can't foresee how many years it's going to take. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. We hope the technology can develop as soon as possible, but when it actually develops, it's going to be dramatically changed. For example, virtual reality, now we need a headset to watch. But maybe in one day, we can actually watch this virtual reality without any headsets. It's just right in front of us. Maybe it's just contact lenses. Maybe it's just glasses. We can keep watching. There are so many things that we can't foresee right now. But I can assure you, it's going to be amazing, maybe a little bit scary, but it's going to be fun. Just like the life of us nowadays is unimaginable for audiences like 3 decades ago. So let's see how technology is going to change media and how technology is going to change our life. So I think maybe all the speakers and guests are going back to the conference room. And if you want to know, later this afternoon, we have some reporters from around the world. They're going to discuss how to go viral online. Because we have some KOLs from around the world, both from China and from around the world. Shall we go inside to take a look? It's okay. Let's go inside. So everybody is really taking their time, still resting. Right there. Today we have reporters, media staffs from all around the world. They are sharing their insights from about media and about the future and how technology is going to change the way we do. So let's keep going. I will give some inside view of this conference room. If you can't be here, with us today. Everything you need to know can see from this live stream. Let's keep it going. Hi. Let's keep going. So about to start. So this is the inside look of this conference hall. You can see these are labels of the names of all the guests and speakers today. Will soon be started. This is the inside. This is the stage that speakers and guests giving speeches earlier today, and later they're gonna have another panel discussions. And the senior reporter from BuzzFeed, Ryan Broderick, that we talked about, that I had an interview with him earlier this morning, and he's going to be here as well and share how it is to get viral on different platforms in the West. And there were some popular KOLs from China as well. For example, I know there's another KOL called Zhihao Will. He's very popular. He interviewed many celebrities from Hollywood. For example, The Rock, Kevin Hart, Chris Hemsworth. They are really he's really popular because he also doing these interviews with those celebrities on platforms like TikTok and get really popular. And how did he do that? How did all the KOLs succeed on different platforms? If you really want to know, stay tuned because they will be here to discuss this issue. And I can see there are some guests that keep coming into this room, so it will start soon. Don't go away, stay tuned. But I think now we need to walk out of this room because soon all the guests will go over here. Okay, it's okay. So now I'm going to switch to this side. And all the guests keep coming in and they're sitting down, so maybe in a few minutes they will start soon. Okay, so if you want to know more about the trends, the future of media and technology, stay tuned for this live because we still have so many important speakers from around the world joining us later today. So stay tuned, don't go away.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start our afternoon session, the second half, very soon. You're kindly reminded, please take your seats as soon as possible. 女士们、先生们，我们下一个环节马上就要开始了，请尽快回到您的座位，谢谢。Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us here again. So earlier, before the break, we have heard from a list of notable speakers about their vision of a digital future. And now, it's time to hear the voice from next generation. Let's hear from Gen Zers about how they are producing content, how to better reach the next generation, a generation we might know very little about. So before I introduce my panelists, let's now take a look at this short clip to find out more about them.
Yo, what's up guys, this is Will. So today let's talk about
myself, news anchor when I was in school, then I began to vlog, then I began to act. I work with superstars, my friends, and my dad and mom. I vlog wherever I go. Airplane, bullet train, supermarket, and toilet. Yep, that's me, and it's so nice to see you guys.
China is one of the most exciting
landscapes when it comes to the innovation of media, of technology, and of people. I'm really excited to join everyone at the conference. My name is Sumaya Omar. I'm co-founder of #OurStories. We are a global video publisher. We publish across platforms. Our audience is aged between 13 and 24 years old, so I'm really excited to talk about how we reach younger audiences, how we understand what they're thinking, what they're talking about, and produce content for them. This is #OurStories. What's yours?
Hi, my name is Freddie. I created a video channel named Eye Opener, which features videos on scientific, psychological, history, and pop culture. It has reached 9 million subscribers by now, and on average, we have over 2 million views daily. I'm super proud of our work's been like, and I always feel lucky to have the opportunity to share all kinds of views with the young generation.
All right, now please welcome my panelists. Zhihao Will, popular online vlogger, 5.2 million followers on Douyin. Welcome. And Freddie Wen, influencer with 9 million subscribers. Welcome. And Timothy Armu, CEO of Fanbytes. Come on stage. And last but not least, Sumaya Omar, CEO and co-founder of #OurStories. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the stage. Please have a seat. So excited to meet you guys. This is the most exciting part of the entire forum today for me. Let's talk about Gen Z. All right, this is a whole new generation, the latest generation that's graduating into their adulthood. This is a video-first generation. They prefer video over text more than any other previous generations. They are attracted to social media platforms that put videos front and center, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, you name it. This generation might never have had a TV at home, but don't be mistaken. They still consume lots of video content. They're just doing it differently. And not only that, they're producing content very differently. So let's start with that. Will, we've just seen some of your work. You make these celebrity videos, funny English-speaking videos, hugely, massively popular. We've seen A-listers from Hollywood, Chinese movie industries. How did you make it happen? How do you produce your content?
I guess I'm lucky. Like, if you got an interest, if you're passionate about the thing you want to do, you're going to be successful. Like, a lot of people ask me how you can be successful, how you can be a KOL. And I think the only reason why I want to be an influencer because I'm interested in what I'm doing right now. I just want to show myself. I just want to share my stories to my followers. That's all. But nowadays, if you want to make some money, then you vlog. Probably it's difficult for you to become the real successful KOL or influencer.
So what goes into the consideration in deciding what to film?
Sorry, pardon?
What goes into the consideration into deciding what you film? We've seen a variety of videos.
Well, some of them I just noticed.
It's just stemming from your own interest, or you are identifying a particular demand there from your followers?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Thank you for asking. Now, like, at the first step, I just noticed, oh, this might be interesting for me. I think this is interesting, probably going to shoot it. But when I make it commercialized, probably consider it as a job, then I probably will transfer my video into Audience Center. So both of them.
All right. And Freddie, what about you? Your videos are actually a little bit more educational, right?
Yeah,
these educational videos about tech, about art, history, science.
Music sometimes.
Yeah, there are topics like the evolution of toilet or who invented chioku, the long underwear or thermal underwear. I didn't know that before. So you really make learning entertaining and fun for younger people. I think the fact that your videos are so successful, it can be quite surprising to a lot of people, thinking that Gen Zers only watch funny and silly videos online, which are not entirely true, right?
Exactly. There is a term saying that the Gen Z always like playing videos or do those fun stuff. But actually, at least from the data from my channel, I can see that there are still a lot of new generations. They are into those kind of educational stuff and very
dry stuff as well.
Yeah.
If I can put this into, you know, a relatively fun way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and earlier we were talking about this because I had the opportunity to film a short video, a Douyin type 15-second video this morning. It was actually quite fun. And I was being told it doesn't really take too long to film a short video like that and make it funny, right? Yeah. Usually, how long does it take for you? Like under an hour or 20 minutes?
20 minutes to 30 minutes.
And then how many people do you need on your team to make a project like this work?
One or two. For
Just
me,
one or
just selfie stuff, and then if you use someone cameraman to shoot if I have to act.
And do you need somebody to do the planning, logistics, or you're covering it yourself?
Yeah, it's okay. Just do it by myself. How about you, Freddie?
I actually doing this quite similar to the traditional media. You know, at the beginning, I started to make video in 2016. At that time, I was kind of doing it quite, you know, casually and sometimes improvisationally. But when it comes to a certain stage, I find if I want to make it bigger, then I need to take more talents in. So from 2017, late 2017, I kind of employed some of the Gen Zs who produce the videos with me, and now I have a team of 9 in Beijing.
9 people. Wow.
Yeah, and we kind of uploaded uploads video daily, every day, and basically we produce 7 videos a week, 6 to 7 videos a week, and so in average, every video takes around 7 days for one people to complete if we have to assign that into a head account, right?
What kind of video works the best, though, for your viewers, especially Gen Zers?
Gen Z, they like to talk about the psychological part of humans. These kind of videos, I was originally not so, you know, into it because I didn't realize or I didn't anticipate that they would like it, but I tried. I think if I walk them through these kind of psychological experiments and those human behind or human nature behind those experiments, and surprisingly, they like it very much, and they talk a lot about these experiments, and they can link those experiments to their own lives, which is quite, you know, inspiring for me as well. And, you know, in a very early stage, we select a topic by ourselves, but I think in October and November, 50% of the topics we are selecting is from audience.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. And Freddie, Sumaya, let me bring you guys into the story here. So Will and Freddie here, Tim, I'm sorry. Will and Freddie here are both content makers, influencers on social media, and you guys founded your own companies. You guys are young entrepreneurs capitalizing on the business opportunities, rise along with social media and short videos. Give us your thoughts, Tim. Tim first. What are the contents that work the best for Gen Zers? You probably have some statistics backing your findings, because your company actually helped some companies launch their social app campaign, right?
Yeah, so what we do at Fanbytes, everyone from the UK government, McDonald's, Samsung, they come to us to run social media campaigns, specifically on Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram. And we do that through connecting them with these big content creators, these influencers on social media. In terms of the content that works well, so a lot of people say this, and I think is actually completely false. A lot of people say that Gen Zers have a very short attention span. And I think that is the biggest pile of rubbish I've ever heard. And the reason why is because that same Gen Z will spend 6-7 hours a day watching Netflix. So you can't say that their attention span is short, but rather their interest span is what I think has changed. And because we have the phone at our disposal, it's very easy for us to just essentially vote with our phones to say whether we like something or not. And so in terms of the types of content that we often see that resonates quite well is stuff which sees itself in the first at least 2-3 seconds as being able to pique someone's interest and actually be able to make them look cool to their friends. So I'm not surprised that you say that one of the best pieces of content that you produce that Gen Z really like is the psychological stuff. Because they can take that content and they can go to school the next day and say that fact, and people are like, wow, you're so clever. So we live in a world where it's very easy now for you to show or at least present an idealized version of yourself. And the type of content that enables you to essentially show off on social media is the type of content that's going to work pretty much every single time.
Sumaya, what do you think?
I mean, for us, our content is what we like to call conscious content, which means that it is largely constructive. So we're not just talking about issues, but we're talking about solutions. We're talking about how we constructively take a conversation forward. And that's what our audience loves about our content. It's about, showcasing people that are changing their world and changing the environments around them. And I agree with Tim when he says that, there's this misconception that Gen Zs and young people have really short attention spans. Our content, our retention is one of the best things about our engagement metrics. People watch for a long period of time. And I think it's just about creating content that is, made for mobile viewing, made for the behaviors of young people.
What kind of content you're going to show to millennials or Gen Z if you want more engagement?
I mean, for us, a lot of the things that work is like how-to videos, engaging type of content, listicles. So there's lots of ways of even telling news stories, which what we do, in a way that Gen Zers are used to watching makeup videos, in a way that they're used to watching lots of other, maybe more frivolous type of content. But creating, the types of formats, I think format is really important, types of formats that they're used to watching, that they're already engaging with, and making heavier topics and more serious topics work around those types of formats.
And will you agree with that? What kind of genres or type of stories, content works the best, attracts more followers?
For me, I think most important thing is you have to put a story into it, and they're going to feel related. Like, oh yeah, I have the same experience. Oh yeah, this is the question I really want to ask, and you answered for me. So probably they're going to have more interactions and leave more comments into it.
Yeah, I find Gen Z, they like to consume content that they feel interactive and also in real time.
Or
valuable.
some controversial stuff, like I don't agree with you. I don't think this is a good content. Haters probably also a big part of the content. So you can show up or produce some, like there's a huge argument or discussion. Yeah,
so both positions might work.
Yes.
And do Gen Zers respond well to edgier campaign or more visual tactics? Is that true?
Yeah, so I think it depends, right? So we, in our office back in London, we have this big signpost on our wall, and it says, social media is what happens if you had a TV crew following you 24/7, and you could only show the good parts. And that's the way we see it, because then the owners, especially for brands and for organizations trying to reach that audience, is everyone on social media, everyone here pretty much, we are essentially creating our own TV shows online in which we play the main character. And so the best campaigns in terms of how to reach younger audiences are the campaigns where you can enable that viewer, that user, to create the best TV show possible. Because if they do that, they will also promote you as well. So yes, there's some elements of edgier content in there, but as long as I think it almost gives them the opportunity to show off in some way, or gives them an opportunity to add another storyline into this TV show they've created for them on social media, you'll always win.
And Freddie, what is the most difficult part for you to make short videos?
I think it's to bear in mind that the methodology that we're now working on, it's called the idea of sharing. Because, we are making those so-called dry contents most of the time. And how are we going to attract the audience that we now have, or those potential audience? It's very important that I always remind my team members, remember every time whenever you are writing or you are editing or you are speaking or dubbing, try to picture a person, a not so well-educated person in front of you. That means that this one is not going to understand those terminologies or those complex expressions or wordings. Then, under these circumstances, how are you going to talk about your things or your stories? I think it's the way of sharing. Yeah, because people, when we are interacting with people, interacting with each other, we like the idea of share, not educating, not cramming, not abetting, but sharing. But it's really hard to maintain this kind of methodology or status. Sometimes because we are now running it in a team way, not my individual idea. So sometimes it's really hard to differentiate from the others, copywriters, and with my own idea. And it's
talk to us about that. 9 people on your team.
Yeah.
What kind of role do they play? Like, let us know what a content influencers. How does this whole thing work?
Yeah, as I said, it works quite similarly to those traditional media, because I worked in the traditional media when I was in uni. Yeah, I worked as an intern, like in CCTV as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Actually, like for 2 months or so, and I also work in the provincial TV station in my hometown.
So you know how a traditional newsroom works.
Traditional media works. So basically, what now we are creating videos is quite similar to that. We have brainstorms for like story selection, topic selection, and planning, and then our copywriters or our writers will try their best to find the potential or write the materials and do the writing. And after that, we will always do a second, sometimes even third check to ensure that all the references and the data we include in those articles to be true, to stick to the truth. So before I do the dubbing, because as you can see in my video, sometimes I go online, but sometimes on the camera, but sometimes I do not. So before I go to do the dubbing or voiceover or shooting, I always do a final check to eliminate those minor errors like typos or misnomers. Then comes with editing and post-production, which is really time-consuming. And the final step is uploading our videos to 20 platforms.
Oh my God, that sounds like serious work.
Really
So from planning, filming, post-production, how long does it take? I would assume this would take much longer than Will's videos.
Yeah, much longer. As I said, we got 9 people, right? And we upload video every day. So if it were just me, it would take like 5 to 7 days to produce a single video.
Wow.
Because we do a lot of research on the topics we are talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, like sometimes, as I said, those topics just didn't pop out in my mind. It came from the audience.
The viewers.
And before I see this topic, I never thought about it before. So I have to do the research, read a lot of articles from newspaper, from magazine, sometimes from those publishing materials by the, academy. Yeah, so it's really time-consuming.
And how do you keep your team afloat? I mean, you don't charge your viewers for watching your videos, right? So it's your revenue, I would assume it's mainly from ad money? Yes?
I was just talking with Bill about this question. Before June this year, 2019, most of the incomings actually come from those platforms. They broadcasting our...
Just like YouTube.
Just like
pay by views.
Pay by views. Like
more people view your videos.
Yeah, a lot of videos like Bilibili, Sigua video, and some other like Baidu. They do such kind of feedback for us, incoming feedback for us as well. But after June 2019, after I go onto the camera, then new opportunities comes. Those big brands that I really appreciate their acknowledgement, and also they choosing us to promoting their brands or videos. I actually got cooperation. Can I call it cooperation? Yeah, cooperation from Samsung and from Subaru, and one of my fellows just told me that he has talked to one of the biggest or the most luxurious car branding last night, and I'm looking forward to that too. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Those are multinational brands. These
Exactly.
are some serious contract they are going. I will tell you how what I imagine would be the most difficult part for your content making. I thought it was to get the celebrities to work with you. I asked you the question, but you said no. I even asked, do you pay those celebrities to get them filmed?
No.
And you said it's actually the other way around.
Yeah, they pay for me to promote your...
Tell us about that. How does this whole thing work? It looks like it's a whole complete industry now. It's totally commercialized.
Yeah, actually, I was a little bit different from Freddie because he actually had an organization or a team or something, but I just want to work myself. Actually, I don't have the guts to be a boss, so I'm not a boss guy. I just want to work myself because I don't want to disappoint my other people. So for example, if the Hollywood star or the Chinese celebrity, they get a new movies, about 2 years ago, probably they're going to pay for TV. They're going to pay for channels on television. But right now, there's a total different marketing right now. Every individual influencer or KOL has their own channel and their own platforms. Probably I get more views better than a TV channel. So that, and also we are cheaper than, but so so they
and works more effectively.
Yes, yeah, it works. So imagine there's a Jumanji, called Jumanji, a new movie from Dwayne Johnson. They invited me to the Mexico and their whole project promotion. They invited KOL from all over the world. So we use our own unique styles and different styles, the way to vlog or to shoot, and then we promote. So that's how it works. So a lot of people say, hey, Will, you got a lot of money. You can, hire those. Come on, there's no way. But this is a total different marketing right now.
And Sumaya, is this the trend that you are seeing now in this industry? I mean, how do you coach people come to your company who want to pretend content that works?
Sorry, how do we?
If you want your viewers more engagement, how would you produce your content? More original content, better quality content, or more choice of content, or just choose one sector and do it, take it to the best?
So for us, the fundamental of what we do is user-generated content. So we encourage people to send us their content. We help them to make their content better, and we produce shows around that content. So, I mean, for us, reality is the new quality. It's about people being as real and as raw as they possibly can. I guess in advertising, maybe that's a bit different. But in journalism, people want to see real stories, compelling narratives. And so, yeah, we would encourage people to be as real as possible, to tell their stories. We use augmented reality storytelling lenses that we've developed to allow them to tell their stories better, to guide them on how to tell that compelling narrative, to take their story from something that's random to something that people want to watch, that will reach a lot of people and give them the platform to do that as well.
Right, and unlike any other generations, Gen Zers actually do consume video contents more on their mobile devices. I think statistics say over 70% of them watch videos on their mobile phone. So this means that if you want to reach this demographic, you're going to have to make your content mobile phone consumption first. So for example, make your content go vertical. So any square or horizontal content of videos won't work that well. Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that the case with you, Will?
Yeah, I mean, now take myself for example. I no longer watch TV anymore. Yeah, so I use cell phone, and at the first time, I insist to upload the not vertical, but then I surrendered. Because the vertical. People are too lazy to
even switch their phone to the side.
To switch their phone. So yeah, vertical is the future.
So Tim, what else are you particularly paying attention to when it comes to producing for mobile-first consumption?
So I think a lot of it comes down to what is the emotion we can get from someone on the end of it. So actually, I think this was about 2-3 months ago, probably a bit further actually, about 6 months ago, we actually signed on Huawei as a client, and we helped them to promote their latest phone.
On Snapchat?
It was on Instagram and on Snapchat, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And what we did was, they were doing their standard billboard advertising, just kind of their standard
Conventional
advertising.
marketing.
Yeah. And what we did was we got a bunch of influencers to get their latest phone, and I think that phone, the big thing they were trying to sell was the picture quality, was the camera quality. So we got them to take the phone and essentially document a whole day in their life, and then tell their fans that if they wanted to win that phone, they should also share how they would spend their life as an influencer. And we got 60,000 entries, like 60,000 people in 3 days, because this happened over a weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just...
Making purchase of the phone?
Well, people actually just saying what they would do if they were actually in...
Leaving comments on that. Okay.
And then just in that weekend, we got from the marketing team saying that they'd seen the highest spike in direct traffic to that phone. And bear in mind, we didn't go with the message of go and buy this phone, go and buy this phone, which was exactly what was happening on their billboard ads. Exactly what was happening was, here's our phone, it's great, look at how great the camera quality is, go and buy it. But we actually led again with a completely different approach, which is actually tapping into the emotional engagement and getting people actually resonating about a phone, right? And that there's just one of the things that we look at, especially when activating campaigns. We did a campaign with McDonald's, and this was 100,000 people just doing this on Instagram the whole time, because it was for their French fry, and it was a peely campaign. So it was all just people doing this. And I think it can be very easy going from a traditional marketing world to think, let's go quickly for the purchase. Let's go quickly for the checkout. But in a world where, let me grab your phone. This is basically our remote control, right? So in a world where we can just turn you off at any point, when it's always a sales message, we as marketers, as brands, as just people who are thinking about how we reach that audience, always need to think about how do we create content which actually goes for the emotion first, as opposed to just instantly going for the sale all the time. Because in the long run, you'd actually build a much more loyal customer than someone who you only got because you said, we're cheaper, or we're doing an offer, or here's a discount.
So when trying to enter this new platform, what is traditional media doing wrong, Sumaya?
I think traditional media in general, I think that there's a lack of diversity within the newsroom, and that trickles down into the type of content that they produce. There's a lack of diversity in terms of, economics, of age group, of geographics, and so it leaves them kind of out of touch with young audiences and with people. But I also think that there's this misconception from traditional journalism that it's a very us and them type of thing, when actually we need journalists more than we've ever needed journalists before, because we have this democratization of media, this democratization of social, where everybody has a voice and everyone can tell their own story. We need journalists to provide context around that. We need them to provide, the verification and the fact-checking, and to help us understand what all of this noise means. I think that, and I think that traditional media often, because of all of the investment that they have in more traditional ways of telling stories, they tend to want to fit something into, for example, fit a television package into a mobile sort of, a mobile platform, and that doesn't work. You need to create a TikTok video is very different from a Snapchat video, is very different from an IGTV, and is very different from a YouTube video.
So you don't think the repurposed or reformatted video from TV content would work for Snapchat or for
I mean, for Snapchat, for example, people are going to Snapchat to see what their friends are doing. And so as soon as you have something that looks, I mean, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be produced, but if something looks fundamentally different to what like your friends are producing or like what you're used to watching, it's jarring for the audience. And so
provide more context or even behind-the-scene clips without work?
Yeah, understanding how to, people are on Snapchat and in Instagram stories, they're always clicking. They're clicking onto the next thing. How do you understand that and strategize your storytelling around those types of things? Whereas YouTube, people, it's a lean back approach. People are leaning back and watching. But your stories, people are leaning forward and constantly clicking. And so, it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all.
Right. And a lot of news organizations are now trying very hard to adapt to that. To the fact that now videos are being consumed so differently. We've seen TV news anchors posting short videos or do live streamings. I mean, the most shocking one for me is to see that 7 o'clock news, that CCTV here in China, the anchors from that show to do short videos and post it on TikTok. I mean, that is a serious political hardcore news programs. And when you see their short videos, do you think they're doing a good job, Will? How do you look at them?
Yeah, I think they do a really good job because there is one philosophy if you want to create a successful short videos that you have to take the audience to somewhere that they cannot see. So CCTV is somewhere that the audience cannot see, so it will definitely be successful.
Freddie?
I actually saw the blogs posted by Kanghui, also from Lucin in CGTN as well. They have actually doing some, I think I saw the video of Lucin teaching audiences how to pronounce a vlog. And it's quite interesting to see such kind of videos on the traditional media's social media channels. Because I've seen this as a new trend, and those clever traditional medias are smart enough to reckon or to treat new media platforms as a friend or cooperators or just a way of distributing new contents for those original materials on the TV. But also, they will also have to produce more down-to-earth down-to-earth contents like the one I mentioned, like blogs or like English tips, something like this. It will make people feel like this channel on this social media is engaging with us. Yeah, it's talking with us, not just giving you something, not showing up you to something.
Yeah, and I think if you want to see the perfect example of how a news organization can really adapt to a platform, go on TikTok and look at the Washington Post. Like, they absolutely have just killed it because they have their TV anchors and all those people, and they have them doing behind-the-scenes content, but it's not just, hey, guys, let's go behind the scenes and let me show you this. They actually get involved in the hashtag challenges. They get involved in the trends. And, fundamentally, people don't buy into companies. People buy into personalities. And if you can essentially create personalities across social, across all your various touch points, you'd always win. And it's actually not that hard. Like, every time I'm at a conference or every time I'm talking to other people, other organizations, other marketers, I say it only really just takes maybe just get one person in your team and just make it their 3-month goal to just investigate how a certain platform works, and then just give them a small bit of budget for anything they need to just have fun for those first 3 months. Because, you know, I'm 24. Our company right now, we have like 35 people. The average age of the company is like 22.
Wow.
But when we first started, especially on TikTok, for the first week, everybody from our salespeople to the marketers to the developers, I said, just spend the first week on TikTok. Like, that's all I want you to do. Just investigate the platform. I don't care about any missed deadlines or anything like that. I just want you to understand the platform. And by understanding that, they were then able to understand how to create content for that. But for big organizations, news organizations, it doesn't take that much effort. You can literally just get one person, say, you are the head of special projects. Go ahead for the next 3 months, investigate this platform, and figure out how our brand voice can make sense then. You would actually be in the lead above like 90% of your competitors.
That's a good advice. Now, we have a little bit of time left. Let's give our audience a chance to ask the question that they might want to know. So, ladies and gentlemen, our floor is now open for question. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Our staff will give you the mic. And do please, oh, there's one right here. Can we have the mic over there, please? We have a question over there. The third row, the lady on the edge of the third row. Can we have a mic, please? 来，请司仪小姐把话筒给我们第三排那边举手想要提问的女士。Oh, we want our audience and, you know, our online viewers to hear. And also, please state your name and your organizations before the question. Thank you so much.
I'm Ivania Penalver from Inex. I'm head of global distribution. And one of my wonders is, do you see yourself looking in the same platforms in 20 years? Or going to find news and information in 20 years' time? Or do you think that the platforms we are looking into now and the one that we will develop for the age range that you have will change through the years, but in 15, 20 years you will be looking into what you call now legacy media or traditional media, or, you know, name it, in the future? Where do you see yourself looking into news in 10 years' time?
Will, you want to take that? In 15 or 20 years, will you be still doing this?
No, of course not. Yeah, I can't. I just talked with Freddy. I don't think that we're gonna be that. I don't know, the 5G, for example,
yeah, 5G is
when
coming.
5G arrives, probably I'm gonna die because
why?
Yeah, it's so hard to be an influencer. I will not be influencer. Probably I'm gonna to make other people to be influencer.
Why do you think 5G is going to make it
because
hard
the competition, like it's easier.
So more people would
yeah.
be able to join you guys.
It's easier to make a content, but it's harder to be a real individual IP. So I cannot imagine what I will be in the 10 or 15 years. That's too long.
Freddie?
I'm trying the best to stay as long as I can. Because time change and the people's, you know, their taste changes as well. Like the first series of videos we produced was somehow like teach our audience or tell our
your
audience.
Content is useful all the time.
Yeah, it's like you know, what's the toxic tree looks like in the world, and what kind of the highest man in the world looks like, things like that. In a very early stage, like 2016 or 2017, they are into this kind of contents. But as time goes by, as they are growing up, the Gen Z grow as well.
Yeah.
So the taste changed. They want to know why glucose is called glucose. It's called grape sugar in China. Is it related to glucose? Why do we have cow milk, not buffaloes, not pigs? They want to know this kind of I think it's a funny question, but it's actually a very
There's a real
knowledgeable
demand
question
for-
as
yeah,
well.
for knowledge there.
It deserves us to dig into that topic. And they do have historical or educational background or psychological background in this.
Hmm.
And we learned a lot in this as well.
Yeah.
Me personally, I learned a lot from this as well.
Yeah.
Because as I said before, I dig into this topic, I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
It's quite funny. But in the future, I don't know what the taste will go to, but I will be myself and stay allergic to the change of the era and trying not to meet the certifications, not satisfy the needs, but also to engage myself with the needs and also not to change myself too much.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because when we experienced the transition from 3G to 4G, fewer of us would actually imagine the rise of short video platforms, live streaming platforms, the platforms you guys are now dominating. And now with 5G is coming, it's very hard to imagine what's going to be like in the future. Tim, your thoughts on this? Maybe augmented reality, AR, VR would also come along?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the short answer is that no, I don't imagine that in 10, 15, 20 years would be looking at the same things. But I think that is actually because of one reason. Whether you are a brand or a news organization, you may have different sub-businesses, but really you're in one business, and that is the business of attention. That is really what you are doing. You are finding where the attention is and then delivering information and delivering content to them. Right now, the attention is on the platforms that we've spoken about, right? So the Instagrams, Snapchats, TikToks, YouTubes of the world. But in 10, 15 years, that's obviously going to change. But by understanding essentially how to, which is what we've spoken about here, understanding how to cultivate that attention and then get them to make an action, by understanding it at the fundamental level now, you would always be ahead of a lot of people regardless of the platform in 10, 15, 20, 50 years, right? So really understanding that, right, I'm in the business of attention. I'm in the business of finding where those pockets of community are and then delivering myself to them in the most natural, organic way. Once you actually, if you think about it like that, rather than which social platforms are going to be in vogue, you would then be able to essentially build a long-lasting brand because you're focusing on the macro instead of the specifics. And that, to me, is how we future-proof ourselves for the next 10, 15, again, 50 years or so.
All right, that's all the time we have for this session. Very intriguing questions and discussions. Thank you very much, Will, Freddie, Tim, and Sumaya. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So now we have talked about how next generations produce, distribute content. Next up, we want to take a look at how they are consuming content. So we have a case study. Let me now welcome to the stage Ms. Caitlin Chen Juhong, Vice President of Tencent, to shed some light on that. 有请陈女士。
各位大家好，我花一点时间跟大家讲一讲 Z 世代。
Generation
那
Z.
在我讲之前，
Before I start, where are they? After all, it's hardly seen in the room. Our middle-aged people talk about Generation Z. Sometimes it's quite interesting. When we talk about Generation Z, who are they? We still need to make sure that we know. For Gen Z, what is the age group? I think there is really a definition. However, is it from 1995 to 2000 or 1998 to 2001 or 2006? It is a bit ambiguous. If we see the history, since we have the people with label that we might able to figure it out. In this century, first of all, for this group was the baby boom, 1946 to 64. It was after the Second World War where the landscape is being reshaped and economic rejuvenation and revival. I think for that generation was sort of spoiled. The war made it lose a lot. So for that generation, they were better treated. And then we have 64 to 79. Sometimes, especially in the US, there was really a generation of collapse because the regional war or fast-growing society, a lot of changes that they hide themselves against the mainstream, the anti-war, and they've done things that were not in line with the mainstream. And later, after the reform and opening up in China, materialism and sufficient consumerism from 85 to 95. So we talk about Gen Z. At the very first, it was like Generation N. It's internet-based generation. When we talk about 60s, 70s, and 80s, and 90s, it was because of the distinctions of their environment. After 95 or 98, because of the development of internet, we call them, they were the primitive residents of internet. So it doesn't really matter what the specific years they were born. However, they were really the primitive residents of the internet. And the major differences prior to 1995, they were like the digital migrants. When they were at school, there were no mobile phones, non-existent. But for Gen Z, yesterday we released statistics. People under age of 10 with a fast-growing speed of 21% of growth. All of them were mobile users. So the primitive residents of internet, what they were consuming in China, I believe there was about 20% of the share of the demography, and there were about 300 million in China from 1995 to 2009. People were born during that period of time. And for that, percentage was not dramatic, but the online consuming power and the percentage of active users on internet reached about 32.9%. And for the last year, the newly growing percentage, they took about 42.4%, which is really a sizable part of the demography. And so we try to, from an adult point of view, to understand this generation from certain pieces that we were able to see the whole picture. It was really a description, so let's see these elements. The previous discussions were over on vertical consumption. They were so active, and their main target lied in Zhihu, Douban, Bilibili, YouTube. They were the popular sites. Interestingly, in this group of people, where they choose to live is also interesting. They hope they have more options for Tier 1 to live. So in this Tier 1 residents, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Shanghai, could you have a guess? Where do they want to live? It's I know they have the individual answers, but it's really a common and popular answer. I'm not right either.
It's Guangzhou, followed by Shenzhen and Shanghai and Beijing. So we need to deliver this message to Beijing. So for this young generation or group, 40% possible that they regard friends and pets are both important. And then watching UGC video and following the broadcasters to be their fans, it's quite normal. And these two previous guests there are quite used to have a large number of followers. So what is the significance of this profiling? They are Aborigines for internet landscape, and they're born to share this spirit of internet, that is grassroots hero and equality. So let's look at a day of Generation Z, just like all of us, study, eat, and sleep. Well, study is part of their important time of the day, while the phone utilization hour is around 4 hours per day. Is it too much or not much? Comparing with our internet population, this number is not much, because the average usage of phones per day is 5 hours. But just think about when you were their age, what kind of media you were using. You can imagine how big a consumption power will these Generation Z to be in the future. So what do they do online? First of all, social networking, chatting. So these internet aborigines has a very strong psychological, emotional, and the recognition, gaining, appealing is very important and satisfied online for them. Another important thing for them is listening to music, watching videos and short videos, and also 40% of the time are spent on news. Also shopping online. I would decide what to buy and what to look at. So this is the time they spend online. So the Generation Z focus a lot on the entertainment. What would be the content for the entertainment for them? Well, if they have a long disposable time, they would watch long video like the films or TV series, which take up a lot of their time. And for other contents, it's also good, such as music and online literature and social networking and short video. How do they use their fragmented time? It is very interesting. They would log on the social networking while listening to music, or watching the short video while social networking. Well, there's much more percentage of people watching the online literature than before. I think that sends out a signal to us when we try to communicate with our young colleagues or the young generation. So if you are older generation, you found out your children are doing their homework while listening to music. Don't be too worried, because they're born with multitasking ability. You don't need to worry about them. Regarding the preference of a short video, if we look at the leading contents, it covers the fun things, sceneries, or natural scenes, or traveling, etc. So most of the content is no difference from other older generations' interest. And the main difference is they focus a lot on the beautiful faces. And I think that's quite normal for this era. Well, regarding music content, some type of music genre stand out, such as the Chinese characteristic music, accounting for 49.9% of the total, which is higher than the number before 1995. Well, for the middle and long tail genres, it's quite dispersed, like the rock and roll or animated music or folklore. Well, for these internet aborigines, they are used to rich content and sources of information. They don't feel much the limits of this information, so there's more diversity in their preferences and interests. So many people are thinking about gaming. When we think about Generation Z, then in this genre, the electronic computer or electronic sports actually is part of the gaming, and it has been part of the Olympic Games as well. So for this Generation Z, they started with the electronic sports as a fun thing to do, and then it evolved into a profession. Before, some parents would ask their children, if you play so much game, can you make money on that? And it's possible now. About consumption online by this young generation, first, mobile phones. Well, before 1995, it's also the same. I think that is not a big change there. But what about the purpose? When the Generation Z watching content over phones, what is the focus? First, they need to catch up with the facts, the things happening around the world. They need to keep pace with the evolving world. That is the first priority need. And secondly, due to their age, they have a very strong desire to absorb skills, knowledges, and information from the world. They want to expand their vision, explore their horizon, and have some entertainment or relaxation, and enrich their personal literacy, and find answers to their questions of interest. And thirdly, due to living in this information era, searching for answers online through the vertical portals or websites, it is a natural behavior for this Generation Z. So they have a very high level of social networking intelligence. So for this Generation Z, when they receive the content, they would search what they need. And for us, we are having a conclusion is that these netizens of China is hungry. It's hungry. They want to get everything because their available resources is limited. But for the Generation Z, it's different. They're living in a mammoth of information sources. They have been used to interaction and feedback online to enrich themselves. This is a big difference from previous generation. In the sector of online music, we see the difference between the leading genres and the long tail genres. Well, for the information or facts genres, I think there's also a big difference from the leading genres and the long tail genres. And it can be divided into more genres. So for Generation Z, they would like to have a brief or simple explanation of a complicated situation or things, and they want real-time delivery or interaction, and they appreciate opinions, debate or discussions with the interaction. So those newly absorbed information are derived from such interactions. So it's a different requirement towards the information or source providers. For example, for these interest of 3 different types add up to over 50%. It's quite a different number before 1995. So for this new generation, they have a very diversified interest scope. Only 8.7% of them think these information available are sufficient. Because these new generations has a very in-depth requirement or interest into a certain genre. So this would warrant a good exploration for us as content providers. And another feature is that creation for passion. We talk about Maslow's needs paradigm. So we first need to satisfy our basic survival needs with food and clothing and sheltering. And then we will try to satisfy our higher level needs. While for the Generation Z, they are used to start with the higher level of needs. So some older generation are doing things for survival. Some generation are doing jobs or doing business for development, while for Generation Z, they are doing things for what they like. So they would focus on the content of interest, and they would focus on those KOLs, and they would have a strong participatory interest in the content creation. The last session, people mentioned about the future after 5G comes. We should hold high hopes for this Generation Z, because if you look into their creation and sharing of the videos and pictures, you will see the strong desire behind that, and they have such a strong creation needs. It is a good thing, because for these UGC videos in the background of 5G technology, will drive up a fast growth on the provision and the consumption side for VR or real-time interactive immersive experience are just the things for the Generation Z. So for the Generation Z profiling from left to right, well, actually from right to left, it shows their way of growth across 15 years age gap. Some people are in the QQ times, some people are focusing on the WeChat platform. So some of the groups used to share content with the QQ and QQ space. When they grow older, they have more complicated relationships and undertook more obligations. They start to shift more on the WeChat platform for sharing. So this is a shift process. So with this evolution, they just choose different channels. If you look into their QQ space and their WeChat moments, there's not much difference in terms of the data. So how do they look at sharing content? And how about the older generation? The older generation actually has more worries about sharing content, while for the Generation Z, they are more willing to share their thoughts and content, because many of their gains or attainment comes from the sharing from other people in terms of knowledge and skill acquirement and inspirations. So it's like a source of their inspiration for them. So that's why when they share their own content, they are not so reluctant. If you look at these data, comparing them with the people born before 1985, it's so different. So we just put you a very brief profiling of this Generation Z. We are looking into the other side, and maybe what we are thinking will drive them laughing, because they will be the real actors of their generation.
So for Gen Z, Generation Z, why we haven't named any other generation following Generation Z? Because there aren't so many more changes. If we look further ahead, when the AI continues to develop, in a matter of 5 years, Gen Z will become the mainstay of university students. In 20 years, Gen Z will be the major decision makers of the world. The challenges faced by Gen Z is the interaction between human and machine, and the common challenges faced by human and machine. So they have big challenges and responsibility on their shoulders. That is why Gen Z is defined by loving to share, not limited by boundaries, full of love to the world and challenged by the world. So we have to be nice to Gen Z because we still have much ahead to expect from them.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chen. A fascinating revelation about how Gen Zers are consuming video contents today and about their sharing habits. And now we're going to pivot a little bit and look into the future. So what's next? How are different platforms pushing the limit of speed at which information contents are being spread and shared? So for that, let me now welcome our panelists for this session, Ms. Yu Qi, General Manager of Media Relationships Department, Sina Weibo, Mr. Ryan Boderick, Senior Reporter at BuzzFeed News, Mr. Antony Nazareth, Head of Content Asia Daily Motion, and Dr. Yang Jihong, our colleague at CMG Digital Department, and our moderator, my colleague, Zhou Yue. Thank you. Welcome.
Deeply honored to have 4 panelists to shed light on the trend of the future media development. As my colleague has introduced that the panelists are from different media sources, even some from the social media. So my first topic is the overall comments or evaluation on the media industry. As Yu Qi, you're from social media, Sina Weibo. In your view or estimation, what is the biggest change facing the media industry? Embracing change. What kind of changes do you embrace? In terms of platform, when consumers are consuming the contents, they actually mostly consume the contents, news feeds from the media. Actually, they are also facing the changes of the mediums, be it from newspaper, TV, and also the format of contents from video, from scripts. Actually, recently there was a new Sina Weibo account. Just in a matter of few sessions, they have reached a 240 million hits. The reason why there's such a good popularity is because they use the social media way of disseminating information. How does this kind of form of information sharing different from TV, from the traditional media? Only change of carrier or medium. The fundamental change is we respect users more. We use very equal and favorite way of the youngsters, especially the people in the millennials and Generation Z, the way they like. There has been a dialogue of 2017 in the left, 2019 in the right, so before and after. Actually, that kind of feed became very popular because it was a comparison between the past and the present. So what you mean is a trend from up to bottom or bottom to up. Is it user-generated contents? It's not something like just user-originated. It is the way that is promoting that is most important. Right now, in the social media platform, we found that content producer from PCC, UCC has been converted into PUCC. So the content producer is actually the same bunch of people with a content consumer. Only when those two kind of people merge into one can we have bigger communications and outreach.
So you work for BuzzFeed. How would you define the media that you serve? Is it social media? Is traditional media? What is it?
I think in America, those two things were very separate at the beginning of the decade. And as social media platforms became bigger in the West, the distinction started to erode, for better or worse. And BuzzFeed, I think, has been right at the center of that big change. So we started with fun, viral lists and quizzes and animated GIFs. And we started adding more and more journalism as readers became more sophisticated and wanted to share.
When did you start at BuzzFeed?
I started in 2012, when the news operation started. And as we've started to become more sophisticated about what we do journalistically, I think our readers have responded to that. And so now, Western social media is kind of a chaotic storm of viral memes and hard-hitting journalism and crazy nonsense.
So you're a mix of both?
I think so, yeah.
And it is working?
Somehow. I think what it is, though, is the understanding that on the internet, things blur together. You know, a hard-hitting journalism story can become a viral topic. We saw this with the Me Too movement in the West, where a trending hashtag became a gender equality movement, right? I think the distinction is gone now. And it's made the media landscape more complicated, but it's also made it a lot more dynamic and a lot more interesting.
So do you think your media represent the change of the industry, or just one example of a diversified makeup of the landscape?
I think we started very early, and then a lot of other companies have either evolved to become more like us, or new ones have popped up. Vox Media, Vice Media, Refinery 29, lots of websites like this are starting to do social-facing content. We started really early, and we kind of lucked into it. We were looking at what the traffic was doing, and we started making more content to fit that traffic. And I think a lot more companies are now responding to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Antoine, Daily Motion, many people say it's just YouTube in French. Is that a correct summary?
That's a compliment, I guess. Yeah, it's a European version of YouTube. It's essentially a video platform, or more, I would say, a video ecosystem, because we serve a lot like media as our main partners. So it's almost not anymore a UGC platform at all, which I think is something that we can debate. But we're more in such a way a media platform that allow to share a lot of...
But it started as a UGC platform.
Very few, very few. It started 15 years ago as a UGC platform, such as YouTube and a lot of us, actually, a lot of platforms. But I think we had a wake-up call 4 or 5 years ago, and we became adult to a certain degree, and we accepted to become like focusing on premium content and verified content, which equal to media content and professionally produced content, which is, I think, a great move overall. Not only from a business standpoint, but also when you think about our responsibility as a platform. So we had that wake-up call like 4 or 5 years ago. I can explain why actually it happens. And I think it's a movement, or at least a debate that is fueling all platforms and the ecosystem in general. And so we're almost not anymore UGC. It's a tiny fraction of what we're doing today.
And how the audience receiving Daily Motion, because it's been changing to more professionally produced videos?
I think one of the interesting points is like if you move to something more professional or more quality oriented, obviously you lose a little bit of traffic and excitement. Yeah, of course, and we have to assume that, and we have to be bold in that decision, because if not, it's just like too easy. So maybe for some of the users, they pretty much don't like it, but it's not the problem. The problem is like what is the responsibility and what sort of content we're proud to expose to our users. So if UGC equals some violent content or some copyrighted content, are we really proud to serve that kind of content? The reply is no.
Are you saying that Dailymotion is not commercially driven?
It is commercially driven. It's actually a very good question that you just raised, because if you look at the wake-up call that I was referring to a few years ago, I think it was mainly motivated by a brand safety crisis in Europe, actually. So what we had essentially is very violent videos in front of ads. And everyone started to realize that like platforms are kind of responsible for that. I mean, they are the one putting the ads in front of the content at the end. And that was the wake-up call. So actually the wake-up call was not driven by a sense of, I don't know, vision or citizenship or whatever. It was driven by a business decision, which I think is a very rational KPI to look at and a very powerful tool to make change, actually.
Director Yang, Kathleen, Director Yang, as I have known that you actually are now in the CCTV, but you actually transformed from the traditional media to the new media and digital media center of the CCTV. What is the boundary or distinction between traditional media and new media? You have raised a very general question. If I recall my time when I was recruiting from Wuhan University, I said no enemy ever is called new media. No new media was targeting us, but we have to be aware of our short links. In 2007, when approaching the Olympic Games, I was writing a book. At that time, Times Warner person gave a speech at CCTV. I asked, what is new media? And the person interviewed was scratching his head. He said, maybe it is called a non-linear presentation. It is actually the treat and feature of the new digital media. Up until now, all the new medias are based on the non-linear presentation and interactive models. Actually, TikTok and Douyin amplified its digital advantages. All the new media tend to exemplify their non-linear presentation. However, traditional medias are not non-linear. For example, our pay-per-view is not that big, not as big as our planned broadcasting. People already get used to the way of interaction in the past. However, for the Generation Z, they like to be immersed in the internet. They have very strong uploading capabilities. My daughter is 8. She knows how to send and upload a TikTok video using her little finger to draw a heart shape on the window when there's heating. So she wrote something that each loving heart will shed tears for you if you suffer. So some people misunderstood her as an adult. I worried that she got too premature, but her video was very much popular on the social media. So your example is the treat of new media. What I mean is many of the consumers emerge as a producer of contents. My phone is a 4G enabled one, and pretty soon we will exchange into 5G. Whoever owns 5G, whoever can upload will be as professional as journalists. They can run faster than the journalists, and the speed the editing, Final Cut skills are even superior than that of the journalists and reporters. So, do you think the content is generated by user or CCTV new media? We don't do 2C. We mostly do 2B, to the professional media companies, partners. All the TV stations are the content producers. In the future, we will 2C. First step to OGC. I think UGC is a pseudo fake concept, because for UGC, there are so many chaotic and disorganized information.
According to statistics, and every day about 36 billion different types of informations are on the internet. If we read, how much could you read within one day? Maybe you can read like 360 pieces of information. So for the UGC, it's about the input and push and the screening. But AI now can help us to screen, select, push. Yes, we can trust AI, but we cannot solely rely on AI. AI sometimes will push the things you like, so you will have repetitive information every day. Is that like TikTok? What is who is doing? Can I finish my speech? Okay. Okay. Speaking of TikTok, that's another topic. For example, there's been a very hot topic. That's the a female performer from Xi'an. So I clicked this, and then I got a lot of push on the TikTok about the same performers. So it's like that I'm being wrapped by the same piece of information. So that's why we need the people there to push the things that might interest you. For example, you like this performer in Xi'an, then maybe I push something about the Xi'an warrior. And how about the content and the cultural heritage of Xi'an? So I gradually channel you to the stream that I would like to push. So if CCTV video will go to the customers, will that be in our direction? We will not go to UGC directly, we'll go to UGC. That's occupied generated content. I think such kind of content should be original, generate content. For example, there's a doctor who is an ear doctor. He has about 2 million followers, or an astronaut who has millions of followers, or of anchor Kang Hui. He has also a lot of followers. And we also have another anchor who tells you how to pronounce a Chinese phrase. So all these content creators are the professionals in their fields. So I will hope that the future content creators, first of all, will be professionals. And the creators will be the people who share this information. And all the uploads will also channel user to further information. So I have always one thought. All the information should be deeply rooted in a knowledge base.
Ms. Yang just said, because obviously there is a value judgment in what she has been saying, because algorithm obviously offering something that you like, but what is that? But you basically live in the information bubble, and it feeds something that is always in your comfort zone. Is that okay? What is the problem in there?
So I've covered close to a dozen elections around the world over the last 5 years, looking at how technology influences politics. And I think one of the bigger issues globally right now is the impact of algorithms on society. We don't really understand how they work. We don't really understand what they are. We don't really know what they're doing to our minds. There have been studies done in America about the impact of YouTube on people's politics, the impact of Facebook on people's ideas of reality. But the simple fact is we don't actually know. All we really know are that these platforms have an automation in them that serves you more content based on what you like, and they want you to keep using it, which means they typically incentivize the most base behavior. It doesn't mean that it's all bad, but it means that there's a lot of issues with that. So you get stuck in a feedback loop, and you seek out things that make you more excited to use the app.
What is the ultimate principle media, social media? Is it to serve our users, or is it to enlighten our users, inform our users? What is our role there?
Well, I think social media is actually a quite natural idea. People like to share stuff with each other. It's a pretty basic human concept anywhere you go. A journalist's role is also fairly basic, which is you want to tell people what happened and you want to tell it to them fast, ethically, and you want to tell it to them in an informative way. The things that have become complicated is that platforms like Facebook or Twitter, YouTube in the West have combined those two things together in really messy ways. But if you separate them, they're quite simple. And I think when you add algorithms into the mix, it gets even more complicated and hard to decipher where me and you having a fun chat stops and where me as a journalist starts. And that's where it gets complicated.
所以我也特别想听到于琦的观点啊，就是这个算法这个问题。算法就像刚才杨俊宏说的，它可能会让人生活在一个信息的茧里，你只得到你所喜欢的信息，会让你愉悦的信息，但你可能是一个偏见的信息。那么算法有没有社会责任？我们怎么来设计这个算法？
So maybe the algorithm should be responsible. How can we design this algorithm? Maybe this algorithm should be in favor of encouraging people to think more, to have their own judgment. So what will be a right algorithm? So first of all, I agree with Madam Yang that there should be a vertical trend so that the good information creators can share more and positive information. For example, for Weibo, it's not purely based on algorithm, but in Weibo, there are two streams. One is what to follow. The other stream is the hot topics. The hot topics are usually based on algorithm, but for what to follow, it is based on who you follow and what you follow, or the content actually viewed by the people who you follow. So if we use the Weibo, actually we have this rumor cleaning function. For example, as Madam Yang said, we have those influencers who are professionals on Weibo. They create information, they share this information. Once there is a rumor, those influencers, professional influencers, will retweet this piece of information and saying that this is a rumor. So when this piece of rumor is resent, there is a tag on it saying this is already a rumor. And professional influencers will actually correct this piece of information and add more professional knowledge. So for on Weibo platform, we will add this tag. And this is what you control or manage, or in the natural communication, in the natural process of communication, the rumors will be cleaned. So once this is a piece of rumor, there will be a tag on it saying this is a rumor. Those tags are created by the professional influencers and users. You trust this process of natural communication. This has been proved by the facts. And we also have a tagging function. This tagging function has been authorized to the official accounts. So from the media organizations or governments, if they found out that this is a piece of rumor, they will tag saying that this is a rumor.
Your take on how algorithm is fitted in the operation of your media, and how you have your own editorial policies or regulations in place to ensure that no disinformation and rumor can spread online.
Yeah, it's a very critical question, I guess. First, and just to take the context in perspective, actually algorithm or AI is just the results of human produced, right? It's produced by human at the end of the day. So everything that is behind the words algorithm or AI is actually human choices and decisions from individuals or companies, and so we just have to be clear on that first. Then going back to your specific point, there's really easy take that we can actually put in action. So I'll give you an example. When you recommend a video so you watch a first video about any topic, the next video that you recommend might be coming from a trusted sources like a media, for instance. It's a very easy choice, a human choice that you can call AI or algorithm, but actually it's a meaningful decision that is immediately impactful. What you can end up with is like you can lose a little bit of your user attention. Okay, that's probably something that might happen, but at least you have clear purposes and a meaningful goal, which is like, I want to serve only quality content after the first viewing experience. So we can call it AI, we can call it algorithm, but it's just actually a natural human process of taking decision. And this decision might be helpful or hurtful for business, but we just need to be clear and honest on that.
Are you saying we should never leave decisions to algorithms to have the final say?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that actually algorithms are designed by us. So we're the ones saying we want in that. So another example will be, let's take basketball, because we all love basketball here, I hope. So I'm watching a first game, and the next will be about one team, and the next will be about one player, and the next will be about the best things that this player did, and the next. And so at the end of your experience, it's not anymore basketball, it's just one player. You're only focusing on one basketball player. This funnel, the way you navigate through that content, your journey, is actually a human decision, because we, as human people, we decided that the algorithm will react in that way. We'll learn from the reaction, but we'll react in that way. So I'm not saying we should let algorithm do things. I'm just saying we're the one designing this algorithm, so we can decide. I'm not saying which decision we should take. That's a different debate, but at least we should be honest on the fact that algorithm is not something that is coming from nowhere. It's actually us. We're building it.
Yang 主任，央视频
Madam Yang and 央视频 the CCTV video platform. What is its strategy? We have consolidated the resources across China of video clips. What is your next step? First of all, about our strength. If you come here, you can enjoy all the video resources of CCTV and satellite TVs and our live broadcasting, for example, on the mountaintop by lakeside and at the site of the ice sculptures. We have this live broadcasting streams. And for example, at the riverside of the Pujiang River, we have this live broadcasting. Someone was asking, is that photo? Because the river doesn't seem to be moving. The other user said that, no, there was a ship passing by. So people can go there to see their hometown in a live way. So if we want to build this platform, well, I think first of all, we look at the categories. The categories are like distributive ones and interactive ones, such as TikTok and Weibo. And for platforms, we need to dive into the content and the resources where their accounts can actually grow. So all the good content are there, and the anchors have their accounts here. So how this platform can be interactive, can be kind of social media-like, so that people can talk about it. You asked this question that my boss asks me every day. We try to make it social every day. At the commentary side, we increase our professionals. For example, for the slow motion live broadcast of the Sansha seashore, and we will add content like what is the history of this place, and what is the current of this seashore, and what is the speed of the sea current. And the experts are at the commentary place to increase the content and discussion, so you can actually channel the users to discuss. Sometimes it will also influence the users to talk on certain type of topic. So our editor can sometimes raise questions at the commentary side. For example, for the space, and the eggs can float in the space. If this is a raw egg and this is a boiled egg, and also about the female astronauts, what do they do if they have a period in the space? So the questions will be asked in this commentary side. So it is like kind of educational. While education is not our purpose, I think knowledge sharing is what we want to do.
We would like to understand the knowledge behind the news. For instance, we draft a drawing that where is the weight of certain science technologies, and to use graphics and simple drawings to show knowledge and to make people understand. When they read, they acquire knowledge. This is what we want to do.
As CCTV, as Chinese national television, we've been trying to do social media, but how to involve interactions. Ms. Yang said that we can add our commentator experts into the narratives. That means we not only want them to talk, we want to inform them. We want to lead the narrative in a way that the media think it is a responsibility to do. Do you agree with this approach?
I think yes, is the short answer. But I think that one of the wonders of social media, and I'm not sure how it's used here, but for instance, Twitter has become sort of a tool for journalists to reflect the mood of the reader, to embed the tweets within the story. So I'm not sure if journalists here are going on Weibo and collecting, the best Weibo posts about a topic to show what the conversation is like. But I do think that it does add a dimension to storytelling now, where you can say, this happened, and these users are talking about it, and this is what they're saying, or they're submitting user-generated content that you can reach out for and collect and verify and add that context in, and it makes it a much more vibrant story.
Because I think her argument is that as a traditional media, we have authority on certain topics.
Of course.
That's why we add value to this social media narrative. It makes sense.
I think in the best version of it, we should be a filter as journalists and say, okay, let's take all this raw information, let's sort it, we'll get rid of the junk, and here's a good story, and you can trust it. And that's the most important role for us.
What is the practice in Dailymotion? Where's the practice in Dailymotion of your editorial choices and input?
There is very few editorial choices on Dailymotion. There is more like a recognition of who are the trusted partners and media that we should put up front in front of the users. So our job is more to just select and recognize where the meaningful and trusted media, and to just naturally put that in front of the user. It's not exactly like an editorial choice. So we're not, for instance, deciding that we'll cover that topic or this topic in particular. We're more like, okay, there is a topic, so these are the media that are covering the topic. That's our approach, which is, I think, very traditional and very safe in that way. Overall, I would say that what changed a lot for all of us is the volume, the speed, and the quality. But I think at the end, it's very positive. We have way more content. That content is distributed to us in a super rapid way.
Speed, volume is easy, but what about quality?
I think the quality is so much better. I think we don't realize how lucky we are in terms of the content that we are surrounded with. It's just absolutely brilliant. From journalism to fiction to everything, actually. We're just surrounded by absolutely beautiful and high quality and high quantity content, from the movie theater to the podcast to the screen to social. It's just all around us, and we're really lucky to be in that sort of golden age of abundance of content. I think it's really a privilege. It comes with some risk, and it's pretty new for all of us. But if you think about it from a user perspective, it's just incredibly exciting to be in that environment. We have a lot of fantastic stories and content just here actually to consume.
I also want to talk about the main theme of this year's summit, that is media and technology. 我还想谈一谈，就是关于这次峰会的一个主题，就是
The theme of the summit, media and technology. So what kind of technology is the most driving force or creating most opportunities for media? So as a practitioner, Ms. Yang as well, so how would you see the technologies being used in our practice, and how did it go? From 3G to 4G, if we see or look into the future, that we still need to go back on the late stage of 3G, payment could be an opportunity, and at that time we did a lot of NFC. But when 4G actually arrived, that we would believe that the payment was based on barcode instead of NFC. So if we look into the future of 5G, we have a lot of assumptions, a lot of preparations. But when it really arrives, they might appear in a different way. But it doesn't represent that we would sit without doing anything. That we need to invest in live streaming videos, because in the future the bandwidth will be improved without limitations. So I believe the video-based interactions will be the future. And at that time, the internet is not only for capturing information, but it will change another landscapes. For instance, for Sina Weibo, for the past 6 years, in over 60 segments, we've done vertical areas with a monthly page view over 10 billion. So in the future, under 5G, what are the knowledge or content? For instance, now if we are on an airplane, if somebody requires medical attention, if we were lucky enough to find a doctor on the plane, but in the future, we could, from Weibo, to add a doctor online so that it could have the diagnosis remotely. So Weibo has the vision and ambition to do that as well. We would like to serve better on live streaming, on 5G. We would like to done preparations, and we are able to create content, knowledge, to have more followers. And when that day comes, they will be more influential and to be more involved and engaged.
What kind of text, cutting-edge text, that BuzzFeed has been using that has changed the media operation of your outlet?
I mean, the switch to mobile has been massive. It's changed the way we think about content, the way we tell stories. But something that I've found interesting all day today is I've never heard this until I came here, actually, which is this idea that 5G is coming. It's not a conversation we're having in the West in terms of its regard to storytelling or journalism. And I find it interesting.
Is it because the U.S. is lagged behind in terms of infrastructure?
That is a conversation for a very different panel. But I think it's interesting that that's how it's being thought of here, that technology is leading the user behavior, whereas I feel like for Western platforms, it's actually user behavior and what they adopt in terms of consumer technology. So it has been really interesting to listen to all of you speak today about 5G coming. It's making me wonder what that will mean for us.
But 5G has already come. There are more than 10,000 users in Beijing.
And a lot in Korea too, where it was already adopted like 6 months ago. But then the question is like, is it changing the way Korean people are consuming content, or the type of content they are consuming? That's a very good question, and it's interesting to even look at. I mean, if there's a really good example I want to share with all of you, which is India. Very interesting. The massive data and mobile revolution was not 5G. It was just like cheap data, very reliable, very affordable. That was a massive revolution over the past of the last 3 years. 320 million had access to data because of a lot of things, mainly due to Jio, which is one of the main telco there.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just like you push the adoption of an existing technology a step further, and it changed everything because suddenly everyone has access to data at a very cheap price. So what is very funny for me today is to look at the data in India. So they consume as much data as in Korea today, mobile data. So sometimes it's just like the adaptation of an existing technology that was already there, but just go in a broader way.
And do Europeans also embrace the coming of technologies like 5G and artificial intelligence, like what the Asians have been doing?
Generally, I think I think we're not expecting something fundamentally different from 5G than 4G. For instance, IoT is not a daily topic in Europe. I don't think so. I don't think we can say that. So I would not say that there is the same expectation behind 5G in Europe than in other markets and countries in Asia, for instance, where it's way more.
Ms. Yang, for CMG, we have had 5G lab. We hope 4K, 8K, AI, these technologies integration would change the landscape of media. I'm not sure would that have more influence to Yang Shiping. I think technologies brings from all-round changes to videos. 5G is the most apparent change because of the highest definition, low latency. It can provide more possibilities to users. It can go beyond professional journalists. And the 5G would bring when the emergence of users. Previously, users were passive, but now the traditional media have been changed, and in internet stage, the page view, likes, reposts, comments, all these become users. Users are become more proactive to choices, and so they have their more powerful influence. So users have to find a platform to upload their own content and share. So these influence of users have brought changes. I once had an idea that the reason we pay attention to users is because we need to have tools in place. For Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent can become the leading apps because Baidu is a search engine, Alibaba is e-commerce and payment, and Tencent is on instant messaging, and even for Toutiao is on special format of uploading news, and Meitu is also Photoshop, and Yang Shiping is the future video search engine, SDK Plus stream, slow motion stream, copyright trading platform. Those are in parallel. We could do national celebration on this search and keyword that we were able to have the result of the very first inaugural ceremony back in 1949, and even the grand ceremony for this year. So we serve users that were on the website which were not active users. So they have to use you in order to become your active users. So this transition is based on tools. So President Shen asked us to do platforms. So if we own the platform to serve tools, so the tools can get users and then get interactions and on the traffic and to get the whole market. So due to the time constraint, thank you very much, Antoine, Ryan, Ms. Yang, and Ms. Yang. Thank you all.
感谢周老师精彩的 moderating， 谢谢。
Zoe and all the panelists.
And that's gonna do it for our summit event today. I hope you all had a fruitful day here, all enjoyed your time here, but do join us for the CGTN Tencent Night celebrations tonight at 7:30 p.m., sponsored by Tencent. My colleague Beatrice Marshall from CGTN Africa and my colleague He Tianyan will be hosting the dinner at Oye Brewing. We have a shuttle bus to take everybody there. The shuttle bus leaves at 6:30 downstairs. So hope you guys could make it. Hope to see you then. So have a great night. Bye, guys.